And sunny early this morning. You do have a 30% chance you'll see some showers today, and your high is going to be 19. The team this morning, there's Mr. Abby Adiyemi behind the controls. Abby's going to be covering weather, and between the two of us, we'll cover your morning commute as well, so you can always call us through the morning. Mr. Darren Marash is here. Hey, D. Darren is our producer of our YouTube stream, so if you watch us there, say hello. And there is Jenica Sewell, and they are directing this morning, and nice to see you. They're in all week for Corey Funk. Right now, it is 2 minutes to 6 o'clock, and in for Heather Wells as we get through our summer stuff in here is Josh Crabb. Nice to see you early this morning.
Nice to see you too.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. So Josh is obviously here to bring us the news of the day. What's developing today?
Well, Winnipeg fire paramedics will have a new tool starting this fall when responding to overdoses to help treat withdrawal and reduce cravings. Health Canada just gave them special approval to provide buprenorphine. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated. Her terminally ill mother waited on a gurney in a hallway last week at Health Sciences Centre ER for about 20 hours. Manitoba's health minister addressed long wait times at an unrelated news conference this past Friday, saying they didn't happen overnight and will take time to fix. And a western Manitoba community in the Parkland area devastated by flooding is celebrating now that the main highway connecting it to the nearest town has reopened. I'll tell you what it means for people living in the Swan River, Minnetonka area. Your next local CBC News is at 6:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Josh.
You're welcome.
Wow, that must mean a lot to those folks. Of course, it's been cut off for months. Let's talk about what else is on the program today. You might have seen on your social media feeds in Manitoba that Alea McIver passed away. And over the weekend, people just learning of this. A Manitoba advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit individuals who gave so much to the community. We'll hear more about how they are being remembered. Also, this hour on the program, this morning on the program, rather, the Winnipeg Humane Society is receiving a higher number of animals in need of medical care right now, July over July. We'll find out what's causing the change. Stay tuned.
Today on Q.
After taking a decade-long break from music, Hilary Duff is back with a new album which dives into the messy, vulnerable parts of life in her late 30s. She's here to talk about finally feeling ready to open up on this new record and reflect on her early days as a child star.
Q. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The mother of Jack and Lily Sullivan is now speaking publicly. Her children disappeared more than a year ago. They were last seen near their home in Pictou County, Nova Scotia on May 2nd, 2025. Despite an extensive search, there's been little trace of the young siblings. The CBC's Angela McIver has this broadcast exclusive.
I don't feel I owe people anything.
Malaya Brooks Murray makes no apologies for staying silent since the weekend her two children, Jack Sullivan, who was 4 at the time, and Lily, who was 6, went missing from their home in Lansdowne, Nova Scotia. She says the RCMP advised her not to talk.
I just did whatever they told me to do because I didn't want to jeopardize the case in any way.
Brooks Murray says she heard Lily and Jack playing in their bedroom early on the morning of May 2nd, 2025. But when she realized the house had become silent, she called 911. An extensive search turned up little evidence. The day after her children vanished, Brooks Murray left the property and says she never returned.
The police had said that we should go and told my family privately to take me out of there.
Brooks Murray says even though she hasn't been in the spotlight, she has been working behind the scenes. Last spring, she took part in a volunteer search for Jack and Lily, led by the Ontario group Please Bring Me Home. Nick Oldreive is the executive director.
People looking from the outside in will compare it to, well, if Malaya is not behaving like these other parents did when they lost their kids, then she must be guilty of something. And that's just not what we saw.
Police have not identified suspects. In a statement, RCMP said many of the investigative steps being taken and the progress being made can't be shared publicly. Angela McIver, CBC News, Brookfield, Nova Scotia.
A 3-year-old girl is in hospital after a bear attacked her outside her home in Maple Ridge, BC. Conservation officers say the child was playing on her back deck when the animal attacked. A parent managed to chase the bear away. The girl was airlifted to BC Children's Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police later shot the bear, but it ran into the woods. Conservation officers are still trying to track it down. Our CMP are confirming an 80-year-old woman died during trying to escape the Bald Range wildfire in BC. It is a fast-moving fire southwest of Okanagan Lake. Police say the woman died suddenly on Friday. The BC Coroner Service is investigating the cause of death. Police say she lived in Meadow Valley near Summerland, BC. Those communities remain under evacuation orders. But as Georgie Smythe tells us, that could soon change.
The Bald Range wildfire is still burning out of control, but there's now talk of evacuated locals returning home if conditions allow. But as Summerland Chief Administrative Officer Graham Statt told a live stream on Sunday, there's no timeline for that just yet.
Staged re-entry, where we can accommodate it, working closely to make sure those areas are safe. Basic requirements will have to be made in those areas before we can let people back in. So it won't be the whole community. It'll be pieces at a time.
Statt said there's still active fires burning around Summerland's periphery. He confirmed downtown is undamaged. The town's mayor says an unknown number of structures have been lost in the region. About 12,000 people from the immediate and surrounding areas are on evacuation orders. Many of them are staying nearby in hotels, RVs or tents, existing in the uncertainty and thick smoke that has settled in this valley. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Osoyoos, BC.
More than 1 million people have been forced to leave their homes in eastern China. Typhoon Dolphin is packing powerful winds and heavy rain. It made landfall yesterday. More than 1,000 flights have been canceled. Officials warn there will be severe flooding and landslides. Reporter Laura Westbrook has more now from Hong Kong. And Laura, what is the latest?
Well, Marcia, a huge mobilization effort has taken place ahead of this storm's arrival, the most powerful to hit China this year. Hundreds of thousands of people were evacuated from high-risk areas, as well as emergency shelters were opened. Typhoon Dolphin made landfall in eastern China on Sunday night local time, packing winds of around 150 kilometers per hour. Bringing with it those strong winds, they uprooted trees. It's also caused major disruptions to transport, with hundreds of flights cancelled, including at Shanghai's 2 main airports. And we've seen some flights resume, but also flight disruptions have continued into Monday. It's also brought with it a lot of rain. Parts of Shanghai, which is quite inland, they have seen a lot of flooding. State media has said that more than 300 flood control pumping stations had been operating at full capacity. And I saw some footage of people wading through streets, which were also flooded as well.
What are local officials expecting in the coming days?
Well, they're expecting more rain. This storm has weakened as it's moved inland, but it's bringing with it a lot of rain, and that brings with it the risk of flooding and landslides. So authorities are remaining on high alert. To give you an idea, forecasters are saying that some parts of central and eastern Zhejiang province could get up to 500 millimeters of rain.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Marcia.
Reporter Laura Westbrook in Hong Kong. The U.S.-backed Board of Peace says its plan is the only way to end the fighting in Gaza. But yesterday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected that proposal. He claims it would mean Israeli forces would withdraw while allowing Hamas militants to keep their weapons. But Board of Peace envoy for Gaza, Nikolai Mladenov, says that's not what is outlined.
Nobody is required to do anything. Last of all, Israel, before we actually have verified steps on the ground.
He told Israeli Channel 12 News that the plan will ensure that an attack like October 7 can never be repeated. Hamas has already endorsed the agreement. Russian officials say a Ukrainian drone attack killed at least 13 people. Some 40 others are wounded. It happened in the Tatarstan region early Monday. It is the site of a major oil refinery and is one of many recently targeted by Ukraine's military.
Зараз третину вже заживили, роботу продовжують. Я хочу подякувати усім.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says the country's armed forces and security service continue to strike Russian oil refineries as well as anti-aircraft missile systems. Ukrainian attacks on Russian infrastructure have led to fuel shortages in recent months. Zelensky says the intensifying campaign is meant to force Russian President Vladimir Putin back to the negotiating table. And finally, divers have made a stunning discovery off the coast of Sicily. They found a shipwreck dating back more than 2,000 years. It's filled with what's believed to be a Roman wine shipment, and the cargo is providing insight into trade during ancient times. Megan Williams has that story.
What makes this find remarkable is not just what was discovered, but how. World champion spearfisher and freediver Giacomo De Mola was near the coastal town of Mazzara del Vallo in Sicily when his boat's sonar picked up something unusual about 50 meters below the surface. He dove in to investigate. Visibility was poor. At first, he could only make out a large, dark shape. Then he got closer.
And then I see this like geometrical stuff, and they say, no, this is definitely not a rock. And I see all these amphoras.
What De Mola found was an ancient Roman ship, the length of about 2 city buses, holding hundreds of long clay jars called amphorae. The Romans used these to transport goods, from olive oil and fish sauce to wine. Archaeologists say the shape of these particular amphoras suggests they once held wine.
I didn't realize in that moment how important this could be. I was down there at close to 50-meter depth, and I say, emotional.
The wreck is believed to date from the 1st or 2nd century BC. De Mola immediately reported the discovery, and police divers later confirmed the wreck and found parts of an anchor and other remains. Italy's culture minister is calling it one of the country's most important underwater archaeological findings in years. Megan Williams, CBC News, Lucca.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. More on our top story, the broadcast exclusive interview with the mother of Jack and Lily Sullivan, on our main page at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at Information Radio. Let's get this week started. Coming up first, a lot of people over the weekend were filling up social pages to remember Alea McIver. We're going to remember her as well, them as well, rather. A Manitoba advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit individuals. Taught all of us in this province so much. Came in so many times on CBC, always willing to do an interview if it meant furthering the cause of understanding what needed to be done to help people be safe. Last, I think, in studio with me, probably when we were talking about, Leah was talking about their desire for a red dress alert to come to fruition. So this is fresh. A lot of people still reacting, but we will remember Alea McIver. Also, this hour on the show, an attack on one is an attack on three. That's according to the leaders of Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. They are forming a new security partnership. You may have heard this developing through this weekend. We'll dig into more about what's driving the move. Right now, speaking of news headlines, Josh Crabb is in with News from Manitoba.
Good morning. Winnipeg fire paramedics and outreach workers say they're trying a new strategy in the fall, giving out a pill called buprenorphine to people after they're resuscitated from an overdose. I'll tell you how it will help. The daughter of a Winnipeg woman who is terminally ill with cancer says she can't believe her mother waited last week in hospital for 20 hours. She says it took a call to the health minister's office to get her a bed. And a highway reopening months in the making, a vital connection has been restored in the Swan River, Minnetonka area. What it means for people in the Parkland communities devastated by flooding. Your next local CBC News is at 6:30.
So it's 6:11 right now, Josh.
Yes.
And I think I've been waiting for you to fill in for Heather, because I think
Okay.
you and Abby could have a throwdown about all the places you've been in the province, because both of you are people who explore Manitoba
little
like
bit.
crazy.
Yeah.
So where's some, at least a few of your favorite favorites that you've gotten to this year?
Okay. Well, just recently on Saturday, I was on the Little Saskatchewan River, which is just outside Brandon.
You paddle, right?
Yes, paddling it. So
Yep.
obviously that area, the water was really high there, but it's gone down quite a bit. So, there were a few rapids and some waves and stuff to play on, but nothing too serious.
How long have you been exploring Manitoba by the water? I always see you posting of the beautiful places. You virtually take me a lot of places.
Yeah, it's been, I don't know, probably the past 8 years or so, getting out there and seeing different places. So that was just the most recent. Have spent some time in like Northwest Ontario too this summer. So
Beautiful. Anything on your summer bucket list? Because we're kind of creeping into August now.
Well, I haven't been out mountain biking yet on the Blue Highway in the White Shelf, so I want to get out there. It's usually like a once a year stop for me.
So Abby, Josh needs good weather, but I don't know if you've been. Have you been out and about a lot this summer as well?
I think the farthest I've done this summer would be the Hecla Highland and, of course, the Fisher River. I just did a road trip that way. But summer bucket list, I need to take photos with a sunflower, and this is the time.
Oh, yeah, it's a perfect time to hit
Low
the
farms, I'm heading there.
Yeah, all right,
Nice.
head southeast. And the weather today actually looks beautiful.
Oh, it looks beautiful if you're spending time outside for sure. It's pleasant and clear to start across the province. We will see lots of sunshine to start across board. These sunny conditions will be giving way to some cloudy conditions as we get into the day, and then we'll see highs in the mid-20s. Here in the Red River Valley region, Winnipeg starts in the morning. Some areas seeing 11 degrees, some areas seeing 15. It's clear outside. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds and some breezy conditions from the northwest. We warm up to 24 today, and the humidity is just being close to 27, and that's what we will see across the southern regions. But up north, we have some foggy conditions in the Churchill area. But temperatures there, we're looking at 10s to 16s, and most regions up north will also be warming up close to 21 degrees. But for Winnipeg, we are looking at about let's just say 15 at this time at the Forks, and we warm to about 24 later. And for traffic, on the traffic notes, just keep in mind we have it's construction season across board, and this may be causing delays on major routes. Just that little minor lane closure can really slow you down. And of course, if you look at northbound, southbound Louis Bridge, all northbound lanes and all southbound lanes are kind of closed for now between Higgins Avenues and Strathcona Street. So it's going to be closed for street construction until August 17th. So please take alternate routes. And also, if you're on the Kinestin end, both the northbound and southbound between Kinestin and McGilvery is closed for now. So you may want to take those loop around Lindenwood to make it out at the McGilvery intersection. So take it easy out there. You see anything you want us to know, let us know. 788-3093.
So as you mentioned, we are starting with condolences this morning, and all kinds of posts all over my socials over the weekend, including this one on the death and passing of Alea McIver, as the community found out. Alea was a prominent Manitoba-based advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit individuals, but also was such a friend to get the message out. And it was such a deeply difficult thing to do, interview after interview. But Alea never declined. I just want to read this brief paragraph here. This came from my former colleague, Kathleen Martins, who's recently an award-winning journalist who's recently retired from APTN, because I thought her post really summed up what I was feeling this morning about Alea and how they shared everything with the community. And Kathleen Martins wrote, Alea McIver spoke up even for journalists and never said no to an interview request, Kathleen posts. She was always there with a big hug. Although I left APTN News in September, Kathleen wrote, I reached out a few months later for a story, about a campus wall mural painted by her best friend, Divis Belanger, who was killed in 2004. And Alea said that Divis introduced her to the MMIWG2+ movement, which she fought for until she died. My deepest condolences, Kathleen writes to her family and her friends. So as I mentioned, across the province in Canada and we in the news business, because we only talk to community, learn about community, grow community if people talk to us. And Alea never turned us down. So we all remember Alea McIver for her work and for who she was. She was an advocate. She also was someone that always brought laughter wherever she seemed to go and was just such a lovely person to be around. Alea passed away last week. News of this moved over the weekend. She would have turned 37 this week. This is according to her social media profile. CBC has confirmed Alea's death with her family. They have asked for privacy at this time. Diane Red Sky was her friend. Diane, of course, an advocate in her own right, recently receiving the Order of Manitoba. She spoke over the weekend with CBC Manitoba's Gavin Axelrod.
How are you doing today, and sort of what are you thinking about when you've sort of been processing things and thinking about your friend?
This came as an incredible shock to me and everyone who has had the privilege of working with and being Alea's friend. And so it's been tough. And I think you can, see on social media from so many people the impact that she had in big ways and small ways, the lives of the people that she touched and the issues that mattered to her most. And it's really nice to see that they are using social media as a way to really give her the honor that she deserves.
For people who don't know, what kind of work did you guys do together throughout the years?
When we were working on creating a special home for sexually exploited youth, and this was at the time part of the development of the Tertius Trust strategy, which continues to be nationally recognized as a best practice. And that's because it was really built by a common table with community and government sitting at the table. And we developed a special home called Hands of Mother Earth. It's located in a rural area as a safe place for sexually exploited youth. And Alea was drawing on her experience of being a survivor of sex trafficking and a survivor of a number of forms of sexual violence. And she also brought her experience of being a missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls 2S plus family member, beginning with her cousin and sadly other family members as well have been impacted by the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And so she was involved in using her voice, and she was such a fierce advocate where she was really brave and courageous. She had a strong sense of purpose to do what is right, to speak for those who can't speak for themselves, to protect the most vulnerable. And it was a real true sense of responsibility that she had to make this whole world safer for Indigenous women and girls and gender diverse people. It's been really over all of those years, working on all different kinds of initiatives that brought us together and created a really special friendship between the two of us.
How do you hope, and I know folks have already started, tributes are pouring in on social media, but how do you hope your friend is remembered?
Well, I think the first thing is that she really loved her mother. Her mother was everything to her, and I just really admired that about her. She loved her family, her sisters, her nation, the Sandy Bay First Nation. She loved her pets. Her fur babies, Prince and Spooky, were with her all the time. She was so brave and courageous for beating cancer with such conviction, and her legacy will live on.
So that was Diane Red Sky speaking to CBC's Gavin Axelrod over the weekend about her friend Alea McIver, who was an advocate for MMIWG families and ending violence against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. If you want to read more about her legacy, you can go to cbc.ca/Manitoba and read more also on socials for the number of tributes that are pouring in for Alea McIver. Many people simply writing, "Rest in power. You helped spark a movement. Now you're gone working from the other side."
How do you listen to your favorite Manitoba shows when you're on the move? Get your daily dose of information radio, Radio Noon, and Up to Speed, live and on demand. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. It's the easiest way to keep our province at your fingertips. Download the CBC News app today.
6:22 a.m. is the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube. As we've been mentioning, it's going to be a really beautiful start to the week here. If you've got this particular week off, you picked a good one, it looks like. 15 degrees in Winnipeg to begin. We're heading for a high of 24. We should have lots of sunshine. Well, next on the show, Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is expected to return to Washington again today to continue trade talks, and Canada is prepared to make concessions, including putting American booze back in the shelves in exchange for some tariff relief. But Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre disagrees. He's calling on the Prime Minister to have more, quote, backbone in these negotiations. Canadian negotiations are hoping to have a deal in place ahead of the upcoming August 19th deadline, which is just over a week away now. These are for the new tariffs that Donald Trump has threatened. For more, we're joined by Mark Rendell. He's an economic reporter with the Globe and Mail, and he's with us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show.
So in Manitoba, we still don't have the U.S. booze on the shelf. So a lot of people have been supporting that. And that came when there was a sale off of the booze, more people buying Canadian. We were doing some of the stats locally of what that looked like. But now there could be a change. So walk us through these concessions that the Canadian negotiators are preparing for.
Yeah, so the U.S. has a laundry list of trade grievances with Canada. Some of it is, long-standing issues. They don't like how we allocate dairy quotas with the supply management system, things like the Online Streaming Act that makes American companies pay for Canadian content. That's been a big issue for the U.S. as well. Then there's a whole bunch of things that Ottawa has done in retaliation for the trade war. So that's things like provinces removing alcohol from the shelves, restricting American companies' ability to bid on contracts, things like tariffs that Canada has put in place on American vehicles in response to Donald Trump's own tariffs on Canadian autos. So there is essentially a package of things that the U.S. wants dealt with. And Ottawa has gone to Washington and said, look, guys, we think we can probably put together a package of things you guys want, but in return, we are going to want to see some movement on your side on specifically the sectoral tariffs. So those are the tariffs the U.S. has on automobiles, on steel, aluminum, lumber, all that kind of stuff. And the Canadian side also wants to avoid this new round of tariffs that the U.S. has threatened for August 19th, which, if they do come into force, will probably hit around $30 billion worth of Canadian goods. So that's what has got everybody back to the negotiating table and trying to figure out if there's a way to swap those grievances that the U.S. wants for some tariff relief on the Canadian side.
Everyone's going to have to...
Wow.
Supported. If you're in Ontario, obviously you're looking for support for the auto industry. Manitoba, you have steel. There's going to be interest in getting some relief on steel tariffs. So unless the team from Ottawa can get relief on all of those things, it could be tricky convincing the premiers to, get on board and put the liquor back on the shelf. So it's going to be a tricky issue, both negotiating with the Americans, trying to find some sort of relief from those tariffs. And again, they're probably not going back to zero. I wouldn't expect any of those tariffs heading all the way back to zero. We're no longer in that free trade world we lived in for decades. It's probably about trying to get some relief, get those tariff numbers a little bit lower, maybe some quotas in place, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, trying to get all of the provinces marching in the same direction on this could be a real tricky one.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about dairy. What specific reaction are we seeing from the dairy industry since the supply management system has always been tightly protected?
Yeah, dairy is a tricky issue. Dairy is obviously very politically touchy in provinces like Quebec. The supply management system in Canada is very tightly defended. It doesn't sound like the U.S. is pushing for Canada to dismantle supply management. It doesn't even sound like they want a whole bunch of new quotas. What the U.S. is asking for is a change in how Canada allocates those quotas. So essentially they want to be able to ship more different types of cheese products to Canada. So maybe not a whole volume increase, but different types of who accesses those quotas. So I suspect there is probably a path forward on the supply management issue that doesn't blow up supply management, doesn't cause a huge political crisis in a province like Quebec, but Anytime you do talk about supply management, it does become politically touchy. There's an election coming up in Quebec. It's certainly going to be an issue there. So I would watch that one. I think probably the more difficult discussions are actually going to be in several of the other sectors. Canada and the U.S. have been fighting around forestry, about softwood lumber for decades. I would be surprised if you can get a deal in the next 8 days that resolves all of those lumber issues. Auto is going to be an incredibly difficult conversation to have. The U.S. has put big tariffs on Canadian automobiles and said it doesn't want to buy Canadian cars. Ottawa's turned around and put tariffs on U.S. automobiles and has put a system in place that forces U.S. and other companies.
8 days seems unlikely, doesn't it, to negotiate everything you're talking about?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for sure. And the goal is to try to get some sort of interim deal. They're not looking to negotiate everything. They're just trying to break a log jam, right? So the U.S. has said, we don't want to talk, serious trade stuff with you unless you put booze back on the shelf and deal with some of our grievances. And Canada said, look, we're not going to do that. We need our leverage. You got to give us some ground on sectoral tariffs. So trying to break that logjam and then hopefully have deeper discussions in the coming months.
So Mark, on the bigger issues, right? You brought up steel earlier. We don't have a ton of steel affected here, but we do have a number of industry, like in terms of huge industry presence. But we certainly have companies that manufacture different parts, and then we do have a steel mill in Selkirk. When you think about steel or you think about automobiles, like you think about some of the big sectors, do you think any of those have a hope of being actually renegotiated or settled with the United States by this August 19th deadline? What's top of the list for the feds, do you think?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, the feds have basically said they want to deal with all the 4 tariff sectors, so steel, aluminum, automobiles, and lumber. I suspect some will be easier than others. Aluminum, Canada has the best case to make on aluminum because the U.S. really does need Canadian aluminum. There's no way around that. Some of the other things might be more difficult. Steel, they were discussing steel relief last October before the trade talks blew up. So I wouldn't be surprised to see movement on the metals, the steel, the aluminum front. As I was mentioning before, lumber is going to be a much more difficult one. Autos is going to be a tough one as well. So Canada's saying we don't want to do it piecemeal. We don't want to just do metals. We want to get relief on all the sectors. But each sector involves a different and complicated set of negotiations. So
sure does.
We will see how it all plays out. And it's going to be some tense days in Washington over the next week.
All right, Mark, thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, that's Mark Rendell, economics reporter with the Globe and Mail, live on CBC. He this morning is in Toronto. We want to mention something local to traffic here in Winnipeg. Just a reminder of the northbound and southbound Louise Bridge. All northbound lanes, all southbound lanes between Higgins to Stadacona are closed for street construction. So that's until August 17th, so another week. So just remember this Monday morning to use alternate routes. If you need us on the commuter line, it's 788-3093. You're with Information Radio here on CBC. We have the business news coming up with Phil DeMont right after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg at 6:30. It's mainly clear and 15 degrees downtown, cloudy, and 13 in Brandon, foggy and 10 this hour in Thompson. Winnipeg fire paramedics will have a new tool starting this fall when responding to overdoses. Health Canada just gave them special approval to provide buprenorphine. It's a pill they can give after reviving someone who's overdosed. It treats withdrawal symptoms and reduces substance cravings for a day or two. Mitch Bourbonnier is a community outreach worker.
I think it's fantastic. I think that's what people need. People need appropriate medication to substitute the toxic drugs. They suffer greatly in withdrawal. They're at risk of dying in withdrawal.
He says this medication will help, but more support is still needed for people living with addiction. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated her terminally ill mother waited on a gurney in a hallway last week at Health Sciences Centre ER for about 20 hours. Teresa Shanowski says that kind of treatment is unacceptable. Shanowski says her mother got a bed after she contacted the health minister's office.
I'm anxious, I'm feeling sick, I'm worried. Are they taking care of her? Is she okay? And obviously not. But all those things were going through my head.
Shanowski's mother was later moved to palliative care at Riverview Health Centre. Manitoba's health minister said on Friday high wait times were not a problem that arose overnight, and it will take time to get out of it. More than 1 million people have been forced to leave their homes in eastern China. Typhoon Dolphin is packing powerful winds and heavy rain, and officials are warning there could be severe flooding and landslides. Laura Westbrook has more from Hong Kong.
A huge mobilization effort has taken place ahead of this storm's arrival, the most powerful to hit China this year. Hundreds of thousands of people were evacuated from high-risk areas, as well as emergency shelters were opened. Typhoon Dolphin made landfall in eastern China on Sunday night local time, packing winds of around 150 kilometers per hour, bringing with it those strong winds. They uprooted trees. It's also caused major disruptions to transport, with hundreds of flights cancelled, including at Shanghai's two main airports. It's also brought with it a lot of rain. Parts of Shanghai, they have seen a lot of flooding. Forecasters say that some parts of central and eastern Zhejiang provinces could get up to 500 millimeters of rain. Laura Westbrook for CBC News, Hong Kong.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's rejecting the Gaza peace proposal put forth by U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Netanyahu claims it would mean Israeli forces would withdraw while allowing Hamas militants to keep their weapons. But Board of Peace envoy Nikolai Mladenov says that is not what is outlined.
Nobody is required to do anything. Last of all, Israel, before we actually have verified steps on the ground.
He told Israeli Channel 12 News the plan will ensure an October 7th style attack can never be repeated. Hamas has already endorsed the agreement. Canadian Auto Union Unifor begins negotiations today with General Motors. This is the second set of talks with the Detroit 3 automakers. Unifor reached a deal with Ford last month, giving members 3% wage hikes in each of the 3-year contract. As well, Ford's pledged nearly $1 billion to upgrade its factories in Windsor and Ottawa. More national and international news coming up in World Report at 8. And a western Manitoba community in the Parkland area devastated by flooding is celebrating now that the main highway connecting it to the nearest town has reopened. Parts of Highway 10 between Minitonas and Swan River were washed out in early June. The last section to be fixed reopened July 31st. Before nearby roads were repaired, people in the community of Minitonas had to drive nearly an hour for health care and supplies in Swan River, which is normally only about 15 kilometers away. Linda Parsons is the CAO of the municipality of Minitonas-Bozeman.
I'm very proud of where we are as a community. Everybody really stepped up and helped their neighbor. I'm scared to use the word normal, but it really feels like, we're just getting back to normal here. I think for the most part, people are in a good space. The highway was a huge win, really needed to happen because that was kind of the last piece.
She says 2 Christian humanitarian organizations helping residents with recovery work recently left the community. Another group will arrive soon to help restore basements. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Josh.
You're welcome.
Let's get into what's going on in the regional forecast now. And Abby's in with that.
Still enjoying this pleasant summer day across the province with highs just in the mid-20s across most of the regions. And then both north and south, we will see temperatures just climbing into the 20s. And the northern region might even see the mid-teens. But across southern Manitoba, including Winnipeg, and tracking it all the way to Morden, Brandon, Dauphin, Gimli, we're seeing morning temperatures between 15 and 11 degrees at this time. Most of the regions enjoying a sunny start, and of course some regions seeing foggy conditions, but that should dissipate as we get into the day. All of the southern main centers will climb to pleasant highs just close to 25 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds developing in the afternoon period and some winds coming from the northwest. And if we look into northern Manitoba, Massey, DePauw, Flin Flon, Owie House, Thompson, Linley, Gillam, and all the way towards Churchill, similar conditions we're seeing there. Morning temperatures just a bit cooler, between 10 to 14 with early morning sunshine. We have shallow fog around the Thompson area, and of course some misty conditions still trending in the Churchill area. Highs will remain cooler, just peaking between 15 and 21 for the northern region, though there's a chance of afternoon showers in a whole bunch of the regions. But across board, it's more going to be bright and comfortable. Winnipeg, we're expecting a sunny start, seeing temperatures around 15 at the Forks at this time. We get to 24 later, and if we look at traffic, As mentioned earlier, just expect delays on major routes due to construction. It's going to be the constructions that will really slow you down. All northbound and southbound lanes, Keneston Boulevard, between Lindenwood Drive and, of course, Rothwell Road. That's just that stretch between Keneston and McGillivray. Both ways, you will definitely be finding construction on that highway of Route 90.
We'll have to see if it is done today. It says it was until August 10th, and it's always when we get to August 10th, which is today, you kind of need people to call us, 788-3093, because that was supposed to be over today, but we're not sure.
We are not sure
so
yet.
Let us know.
So you might still be seeing heavy vehicles on that road, just trying to clear the breeze of construction on the road. And of course, the Louise Bridge is fully closed in both directions between Higgins and Strathcona. So it's going to stay there till August 17. Take it slow, allow yourself extra time, and watch out for pedestrians and cyclists. If you see anything in traffic and you want us to know, 788-3093.
It's like that guy knew. As soon as you said watch out for cyclists, this guy just went right by with his bike.
You just have to watch. This is the season.
It is the season, actually. Thanks, Abby.
You're welcome.
It's also the time of year when the sun starts changing. So when it comes down or comes up, it can be right in your view when you're driving and can cause that sun blindness for a moment. So just be careful out there. Watch for folks. All right, let's get into what's going on. It is also 9 days before August 19th. And that is, as we've just been discussing in that full interview, when the proposed American tariffs on Canadian exports will kick in. Phil DeMont is here with the business point of view on the story. Good morning.
Morning, Marcy.
So briefly, where do Canada-U.S. negotiations stand now?
Yeah, the deal seems to be shaping up where the U.S. would lower tariffs, steel, aluminum, maybe autos. In return, Canada drops retaliation against American products, maybe leans on the provinces to start buying U.S. booze again. I'm interested, though, because there's a distinguished Canadian foreign policy thinker, Fen Hampson. He's over at Carleton University. He argues that these negotiations might be Mark Carney's Neville Chamberlain moment. Now, Chamberlain was the British Prime Minister who in 1938 signed an agreement to hand over part of Czechoslovakia to Hitler. It was designed to prevent a war and ended up leading to one. Here's the parallels. Canada doesn't have much bargaining power with the U.S., realistically. Kind of like Britain with Germany back in those days. American trade and investment, much bigger part of our economy than the reverse. And Donald Trump just as untrustworthy now as the German Chancellor was back 87 years ago. So goes Hampson's argument. We could get a deal where we make a number of concessions, but Trump breaks his word anyway. Bigger problem for Ottawa, only 7% of Canadians think we should make any concessions at all in these negotiations. 60% plus think we should hammer them with more tariffs. Problem with that thinking? Tariffs just drive up prices here, and they could stall economic growth in Canada. That's why last year, Carney dropped most of the retaliatory tariffs that we put in place when, they brought in the first set of these. But there is something in the fact that Trump seems to take any concession and only ask for more give back. So if you're Canada, maybe you draw a line in the sand early on. I don't have an obvious insight into this, to be honest. Maybe you get a deal, concede to get a deal now, and then work like stink to diversify your trade and investment links. To that end, the Prime Minister is scheduled to meet in September with a number of large U.S. investment funds. His goal to convince them to place more of their dollars up here.
Speaking of negotiations, the U.S.-Iran talks appear to have stalled, as we've been hearing on World Report.
Yep.
Where does that leave oil prices in the economy?
Not much changed right now, which is compared to, let's say, last year when the ball was bouncing all over the place. Brent crude, $83 U.S. and change right now, a barrel in that range. Up 7% from last week, but down 25% from 3 months ago. Last week, U.S. warships turned back 20 vessels heading for Iranian ports, part of Washington's strategy to maximize economic pressure on that country. But there could be a potential agreement between Iran and Oman. Those are the two countries that physically control the Strait of Hormuz. Basically, ships could go around the Muzadam Peninsula in Oman into the Gulf of Oman, but they would pass close by points in the strait where Iran launches its attack boats. That would give that country the ability to choke off maritime activity at will. So ING analysts, they see oil prices in the $80 range, Brent crude in the short term. In the longer term, the Dutch bank implies it's a coin toss. American drivers might not matter much. U.S. refineries currently operating at almost 100% capacity. That means higher or lower world oil prices doesn't really matter. They can't pump out more gasoline for the American market. It means the cost to fill up your tank probably will stay high for a while. It could be the same up here, kind of that kind of hangover effect. Higher inflation has all those problems you and I have talked about in the past with higher gas prices, higher inflation, and trickles down to the rest of the economy.
And finally, this morning, if people need time off from all of this tension, apparently you can jump on your super yacht? Is that what we're looking at this morning?
No. Yeah, I know. I stumbled across this and I thought it was just fascinating. Last year, there was $35 billion Canadian spent building super yachts. If you add in the economic spin-offs like tourism, that stuff, another $50 billion. So if you want to know what a super yacht is, basically seems to be anything bigger than 79 feet in length. So the biggest one on the water right now, 593 feet, the Azam. It's owned by the President of the United Arab Emirates. These things have like helicopters and all kinds of stuff on them. Business is growing. Sales superboats up 7.5% this year. And there's Canadian connections. Companies like Gregory Marshall, Naval Architects in Victoria, they design and help build these kind of boats. But the function's changed. In the past, the goal of a super yacht seemed to be to have the paparazzi photograph you on a boat cavorting around in a way too small Speedo bathing suit with some model. Now they're expedition yachts, so vessels that can stand up to harsher weather conditions like you'd experience heading to Antarctica, stronger hulls, higher drafts to plow through heavy seas, and they can run into trouble. In 2024, the Bayesian, which was a super yacht owned by British tech heavyweight Mike Lynch, capsized off the coast of Italy. He died in that accident.
All right. Thanks very much for being with us this morning. Phil, we'll talk to you again. Are you in tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay. We'll
Terrific.
talk to you then. Take care. From our business, with business news from our business desk, that is Phil Lamont. 6:43 a.m. is the time right now. It's 15 degrees and it's mainly clear. Well, maybe you were at a wedding over the weekend. It is the time of year. We've been doing a couple of stories that speak to what weddings are like in Manitoba. If you were with us last week on the show, CBC's Sophia Peralta-Barone came in with a report looking at the average cost of a wedding in this province. And we're still picking our jaws up the floor when we heard it is now, at least according to one wedding planner, over $60,000. That's how much the average Manitoba wedding costs, according to that planner. So if you want to read that story or hear more about it, you can go to our CBC Listen app from last week and check out that interview. But next on the show, we went into our archives actually for a wedding-related interview because this one was really beautiful. For most brides, finding the dress can be a big part of the cost, but can also be a big part of the meaning. There's a lot of stress involved in it. Even more so for brides, though, who need to travel far to find an outfit that aligns with their personal style, but also with their cultural traditions. There's another option in Winnipeg, though, that has opened recently to help make some Bollywood dreams come true. Almari Collection opened in Winnipeg in 2024. CBC Manitoba community reporter Shanley Vidal was there.
Wow. I want to see. Oh my gosh.
That's Indian bride Alicia Vidge. She's getting married in August and is trying on her wedding dress, which is a fusion of traditional and modern. On her wedding day, Vidge will be wearing a lehenga, a cropped blouse and ankle-length skirt. The red fabric sparkles with gold embroidery.
I love it.
While it's not uncommon for brides to do their dress shopping in India or even cities like Toronto or Vancouver, Vidge was able to find what she needed at a new shop right here in Winnipeg.
And once we have your jewelry, even more, it's going to bring it together.
Yeah. Should we try on the jewelry?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I knew that if I came here, I could find the matching jewelry to my outfit as soon as I try it on. So it was super easy for me to imagine how I would look on my wedding day. I like how we went with green instead of like red and red.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice contrast and like a pop of color.
Yeah, I wanted that pop of color for sure. In my bridal outfit, I have so many different components. So I have, it's called a sheesh batti, which goes on your head, and I have a nose ring that's called a nut, and red bangles that you'll see me wearing called a chuda. So I knew Tanya had all of those elements, whereas a lot of stores only have either attire or jewelry, but Tanya's kind of has everything.
My name is Tanya Sagar. I'm the owner of Almari Collection. This has beautiful embroidery on it, such as thread work, sequins, Zardozi work, which is traditional handwork in India. As a little girl, I've always admired Indian outfits, the sparkle, the embroideries, the patterns. It's just so different and it was so fun to wear. I saw there was a lack of Indian clothing and a lack of styles and modern items. Everything was very dated and very tight and everything was packaged. So this open style concept is very new to the city where everything's on display. You're welcome to try everything out.
Almari Collection opened its doors on McPhillip Street at the end of March. But it all began several years back with Sagar selling clothes to friends and family. Now she imports fashions from India every month.
I feel like a shop that kind of has it all is really important for our culture and our community, because growing up, like, we had to always order from back home from India, and it was just, the experience was so different. Like when my cousins got married and everything, even my family is coming here to do wedding shopping for my wedding. So I just love how we have this now and the representation.
Gorgeous. Doing this business, I feel very proud because I get to share my culture and heritage with people. I remember as a little girl when we used to wear like a suit or an Indian outfit in public after going to the mandir on Sundays. I used to feel embarrassed, like, oh my gosh, what are they gonna think? Like going to the grocery store in a suit. But now I'm glad, like, fast forward a few years later, I have my own business where I'm sharing my love and culture with everyone else. And I'm encouraging people to wear it, and I'm like not scared or shy. And there we go. You're ready to be a bride.
Oh my gosh.
Let's do a little spin.
This is amazing, yeah. Wow.
That bride's red langa is heavy. It weighs 5 to 10 pounds, but she'll be changing into something a little bit lighter for the reception, which is happening the following day.
Are you ready for your reception dress?
I'm ready.
Awesome, coming in.
It's like quarter sleeve. I would say it's like a champagne silvery color. It's got sparkles and it's got pearls. This is gorgeous.
Like the sparkle?
Yeah, it
so
sparkles so nice.
Classy.
I could definitely dance in this one. I wanted something lighter because at the reception it's going to be all about dancing, having fun, and we're going to have lots of performances. So I really like how the skirt is lightweight. It's easy to move around in.
With a full week of wedding events scheduled, Vidge says finding these outfits so easily has helped with the stress of planning.
I was surprised how quickly I fell in love with those outfits. I honestly feel relieved. You can ask my mom. She was relieved because I'm a picky person.
Shannalee Vidal, CBC News, Winnipeg.
So Shannalee was at the shop in 2025 in the spring. They had opened a year earlier, 2024, and they're still posting on Instagram. So that business alive and well in Winnipeg. We dug into the archives for a wedding story for wedding season. And I apologize because on the way in, I should have told you to make sure you put on your feed this morning, because on YouTube, we watched Shannalee's beautiful piece. And man, the fashions are gorgeous. Almari opened, as I mentioned, in 2024 in the city. Time right now is 11 minutes to 7 o'clock on 89.3 FM, and we've got a bit of music from Renee Lamoureux, local Winnipeg singer-songwriter. This is Stay Young Forever.
You and I go way back when, that first time at the Willow Bend, locked in our eyes, it was the start of life. Years go by, we still go strong. I wouldn't change a thing, no right or wrong. With all that we've won, who says we can't have more fun? I wanna hold on together, stay young forever. Dance with me, side by side, up until the morning rise. I get lost, still get chills when we kiss like kids. I wanna hold on together, stay young forever. The world is ours, we own the night. Let's cruise on down to 105. No need to say more. Let's dive in deep and feel the roar. I wanna hold on together, stay young forever. Dance with me, side by side, up until the morning rise. I get lost, still get chills when we kiss like kids. I wanna hold on together, stay young forever.
Little Renee Lamoureux for Monday morning from Winnipeg. That is Stay Young Forever. It is 9 minutes to 7 o'clock. We have a brief traffic update here. Kenaston and McGillivray Boulevard is now reopened. We just got a call. So 788-3093 if you want to give us a call and let us know what's happening beyond that. Well, next in the show, let's dip into some national and international news. Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia has signed a mutual defense agreement. It means an armed attack on one will be considered an attack on all. Anne Fitzgerald is here to talk about it, director of Balsillie School of International Affairs and professor of international security at Laurier University and adjunct professor at University Waterloo. Good morning.
Good morning.
So why have they entered into this pact at this time?
Well, the immediate driver for this defense arrangement is really the sharp decline in the regional security environment and the spread of missile and drone threats across the region. Saudi Arabia has faced Iranian-backed attacks, and this agreement comes at a moment of heightened insecurity over critical infrastructure, energy routes, and the Strait of Hormuz. And the rationale behind the alliance more broadly is about strategic autonomy. The Gulf states are certainly not abandoning the U.S., but they are increasingly unwilling to depend on one single external security actor, or guarantor, I should say. Saudi Arabia wants diversified defense relationships. Turkey brings a large military, NATO experience, and an expanding defense industrial base. And Pakistan brings substantial military capability and a long-standing security arrangement with Saudi Arabia. So together, they're trying to build greater capacity to manage security within their own region.
And how do we expect Iran to respond, and what's it going to mean for Israel?
Iran will probably combine diplomatic pressure, deterrence signaling, and efforts to prevent the arrangement from becoming an explicitly anti-Iran military bloc. But Tehran will also not want direct confrontation with the three countries simultaneously. And the agreement is particularly sensitive because Iran's already operating in a much more contested regional environment. Just this week, Tehran warned the Gulf states that further U.S. attacks could bring retaliation against their energy and water infrastructure. And at the same time, it's negotiating through Oman over arrangements concerning the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran's using coercion and diplomacy and will probably try to persuade these countries that their security is better served by accommodation rather than containment. You asked about Israel. For Israel, I would not characterize this as a direct military threat, but it does represent the emergence of another important center of military and diplomatic power in the region, and one that Israel will have to factor into deterrence calculations. Saudi and particularly Turkey have become increasingly concerned about the widening geographical scope of Israeli military action. So Israel cannot assume that this architecture will automatically align with its strategic preferences, but at the same time, Turkey is a NATO member, and all three countries have different interests. So what's significant is that the regional states are increasingly constructing arrangements of their own rather than allowing the regional balance to be determined primarily by Israel, Iran, and the United States.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll leave it there this morning. Thank you very much for your analysis, always, Anne.
Thanks for having me.
Anne Fitzgerald, director of the Balsillie School of International Affairs, joining us this morning from Waterloo. We'll hear more on World Report coming up in moments. Also, I want to share a couple of comments because coming up in the next hour of the show, maybe you went to the beach this weekend. A lot of people might have used their weekend to do that as we're just in mid-month. So coming up actually after 8 o'clock on the program, we're going to be talking to a woman who is a new wheelchair user, and she did her research, and so she chose Winnipeg Beach as a summer destination because it's on the provincial list of accessible beaches. But when she arrived, it wasn't accessible. It wasn't as advertised. So we're going to hear her story coming up on Information Radio. That has led us to ask you what you've seen out there this summer when it comes to beaches. So if you want to hit up my Facebook page or call us, we'd love to hear from you. Where have you been in Manitoba that has been kudos for being accessible? And where have you been that perhaps you faced a challenge? The province did send us a response. There are apparently some wave action reasons that make it difficult at Winnipeg Beach. But even still, you'll find the list of accessible beaches. Maybe you take a day off and drive out and then you can't get to the water. So we're wondering what your experiences are with accessibility of beaches in Manitoba. If you want to weigh in, 788-3205. Why don't we take calls this morning? 788-3205. And I'll mention this again later. And then we'll share some of these comments actually a little bit later as well. There's a lot on my Facebook page. You can read them. And you can also add to that conversation. So that's coming up still ahead in the program. My Facebook page is Marcy Marcusa. And during the show, it acts as a show page. Dipping into traffic here, just to reiterate here, Tyler, thanks for the call. We had long-standing construction that ended today, and it is in fact ended. Talking about Kenniston around McGilvery. This is between Lindenwood Drive East and Rothwell Road. That's open now. So all open construction done. However, not done on the northbound, southbound Louise Bridge. Remember that between Higgins and Stadacona, everything's closed for street construction there on the bridge. It's closed both directions. So that will last another week until August 17th. It's mainly clear in Winnipeg, 15 degrees. Cloudy in Brandon, 13. Shallow fog in Thompson, 11. Winnipeg expecting 24 degrees. Lots of sunshine and some nice clear sky already outside our CBC studio window. In the next hour of the show, right after 7 o'clock, we're going to hear about the Humane Society and why they're seeing an increase in the number of surrendered animals and pets for the month of July. We're also going to hear the most common reason people are giving up their pets. Spoiler alert, the Humane Society says it has to do with financial stress. So we'll find out more about how people are doing with paying vet bills specifically. And then later, still staying with some animals, we're going to talk to someone who the community has dubbed the dog father. So he's been feeding street dogs in his Manitoba First Nation for the past 4 years. We'll find out more about what prompted him to do that when we talk to him. Right now, with other stories and headlines and updates, Josh Crabb is saying good morning.
Good morning. Winnipeg fire paramedics will have a new tool starting this fall when responding to overdoses to help treat withdrawal and reduce cravings. Health Canada just gave them special approval to provide buprenorphine. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated. Her terminally ill mother waited on a gurney in a hallway last week at Health Sciences Centre ER for about 20 hours. Manitoba's health minister addressed long wait times at an unrelated news conference this past Friday, saying they didn't happen overnight and will take time to fix. And a western Manitoba community in the Parkland area devastated by flooding is celebrating now that the main highway connecting it to the nearest town has reopened. I'll tell you what it means for people living in Swan River, Minitonas. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Josh Crabb's in for Heather Wells this morning. Stay with us. Next on CBC World Report, as I mentioned, the latest in national and international news. It's 1 minute to 7 o'clock. Stay with us.
I'm JP Tasker. Lily and Jack Sullivan are the two kids who disappeared 15 months ago in Nova Scotia. They haven't been found.
No possible theory or explanation seems to make sense.
Their mother is speaking out to the media for the first time in a CBC broadcast exclusive, coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The mother of Jack and Lily Sullivan is now speaking publicly. Her children disappeared more than a year ago. They were last seen near their home in Pictou County, Nova Scotia on May 2nd, 2025. Despite an extensive search, there's been little trace of the young siblings. The CBC's Angela McIver has this broadcast exclusive.
I don't feel I owe people anything.
Malaya Brooks Murray makes no apologies for staying silent since the weekend her two children, Jack Sullivan, who was 4 at the time, and Lily, who was 6, went missing from their home in Lansdowne, Nova Scotia. She says the RCMP advised her not to talk.
I just did whatever they told me to do because I didn't want to jeopardize the case in any way.
Brooks Murray says she heard Lily and Jack playing in their bedroom early on the morning of May 2nd, 2025. But when she realized the house had become silent, she called 911. An extensive search turned up little evidence. The day after her children vanished, Brooks Murray left the property and says she never returned.
The police had said that we should go and told my family privately to take me out of there.
Brooks Murray says even though she hasn't been in the spotlight, she has been working behind the scenes. Last spring, she took part in a volunteer search for Jack and Lily, led by the Ontario group Please Bring Me Home. Nick Oldreeve is the executive director.
People looking from the outside in will compare to, well, if Malaya is not behaving like these other parents did when they lost their kids, then she must be guilty of something. And that's just not what we saw.
Police have not identified suspects. In a statement, RCMP said many of the investigative steps being taken and the progress being made can't be shared publicly. Angela McIver, CBC News, Brookfield, Nova Scotia.
A 3-year-old girl is in hospital after a bear attacked her outside her home in Maple Ridge, BC. Conservation officers say the child was playing on her back deck when the animal attacked. A parent managed to chase the bear away. The girl was airlifted to BC Children's Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police later shot the bear, but it ran into the woods. Conservation officers are still trying to track it down. Canada's top trade negotiators are in Washington today. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc will be sitting down with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. Trade talks have been intensifying in recent weeks, with a deadline looming for new U.S. tariffs. But there are several key issues standing in the way of furthering trade negotiations. The CBC's Olivia Stefanovich joins me now from Ottawa. And Olivia, what are we expecting during today's meeting?
Well, the minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade, Dominic LeBlanc, and Canada's chief negotiator, Janice Charette, will be meeting with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer for the third time in as many weeks. This all comes as the August 19th deadline looms for more tariffs to hit Canada. U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening a new 50% levy on hundreds of Canadian imports, citing complaints about provincial booze bans, dairy import quotas, and auto tariffs. And according to sources who's spoken to CBC News, the Canadian government is preparing to meet some of those demands, including ending bans on American alcohol sales in exchange for tariff relief, even though some provinces, including Quebec, say they're not prepared to follow through on that. LeBlanc and Charette met with Greer last Thursday. Afterwards, LeBlanc said that the meeting was constructive and detailed, adding that Canada's focus has and will continue to be striking a comprehensive deal that addresses sectoral tariffs and benefits Canadian workers, farmers, and businesses.
What's the opposition saying?
Well, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is urging the federal government to stop, as he puts it, caving to the U.S. In a letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney, Poilievre says Carney dropped the digital services tax, removed retaliatory tariffs, and handed the U.S. half of the net toll revenues from the new Gordie Howe International Bridge without getting anything in return. The dairy farmers of Canada are also urging the government not to offer anything more to the Trump administration regarding its industry.
Thank you, Olivia.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Olivia Stefanovich in Ottawa. More than 1 million people have been forced to evacuate their homes in eastern China. Typhoon Dolphin is battering the region with heavy rain and high winds. China's financial capital, Shanghai, is among the areas evacuated. Nearly 1,000 flights had to be canceled in that city alone today. Cars are abandoned in flooded streets, and officials are warning of possible landslides through the next few days. Dolphin made landfall on Sunday. It is the strongest storm to hit China this year. Russian officials say a Ukrainian drone attacked and killed at least 13 people. Some 40 others are wounded. It happened in the Tatarstan region early Monday. It is the site of a major oil refinery, and it is one of many targeted by Ukraine's military. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says the country's armed forces and security service continue to strike Russian oil refineries, as well as anti-aircraft missile systems. Ukrainian attacks on Russian infrastructure have led to fuel shortages in recent months. Zelensky says the intensifying campaign is meant to force Russian President Vladimir Putin back to the negotiating table. Jury selection begins today for the man accused of orchestrating the murder of Tupac Shakur. The rapper was shot and killed nearly 3 decades ago in Las Vegas. And as we hear from reporter Steve Futterman, the prosecutor's case is built on the defendant's own words.
For 27 years, it remained a cold case. Then in 2023,
today justice will be served in the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Law enforcement officials here in Las Vegas suddenly announced the arrest of a former influential gang member. Today, Dwayne Davis goes on trial. Prosecutors claim the killing of Shakur was a retaliation hit, just hours after Shakur had assaulted another gang member in the lobby of the MGM Grand Hotel.
Dwayne Davis began to devise a plan to obtain a firearm and retaliate against Mr. Shakur.
The breakthrough in the case came in 2019 when Davis wrote a book about his life as a gang member. In it, he said he supplied the gun used in the attack and was in the car that drove up next to Shakur. Davis's own comments now will be used against him. Former federal prosecutor Lori Levinson.
The prosecutors don't really have any direct evidence in this case. They don't have physical evidence or even the eyewitnesses. What they have are Davis's own words, and that's what they plan to use to try to convict him.
The defense will argue that Davis's comments were all embellishments designed to sell books. And Davis now also claims he wasn't even in Las Vegas the night of the shooting. Today, jury selection begins. The trial is expected to last around a month. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Las Vegas.
In a few short years, you could be flying out of a Canadian airport without anyone directing traffic on site. Air traffic controllers would still be present, but not necessarily at the same airport. Technology being piloted in Kingston, Ontario would make that remote work possible. But as Elise Gore reports, it's not clear if the shift would make air travel safer.
This is the future.
That's exactly what NAV Canada's Chief Technology and Information Officer thought when he first saw the digital aerodrome towers. Instead of glass windows, a camera whips around the outside to provide a 360-degree view. Feeds are monitored by controllers elsewhere, often in a different city. Dave Shepard says,
It seems a little bit far out there.
But
this technology has been in place for over a decade.
The tower in Kingston is a first in Canada, not a first in the world. And the people in charge say a less dramatic shift for controllers than one might think.
Escort 214+3, roger. And
they'll still talk to pilots, relaying similar information about traffic, weather, and dangerous obstacles. Aviation expert John Graddick says it's a model proven and safe.
For whether you're managing St. Thomas or London or Sarnia or Windsor, if I'm sitting from one seat, you're still managing airspace.
But the union representing Canada's air traffic controllers sees it differently.
It would be a very significant change.
Union President Nick von Schoenberg says the change will come at a cost for NAV Canada, paid in people. And with the country's airports still 200 controllers behind staffing targets, that could be a price too high to pay.
We can't afford to lose a single air traffic controller right now in Canada.
Controllers in Hamilton have already been told once lengthy testing is complete and regulatory hurdles cleared, their airspace will be managed from the new centre in Kingston, 150 kilometres away. Elise Gura, CBC News, Ottawa.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, hello, everyone. Look at that nice sunshine out there. If you have this week off in August, you planned well. You didn't know, but you're not going to be rained out. It's going to be actually pretty nice. It's also not going to be that unbearable heat that we've had for part of the summer, so that's all good news. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC with our team at Information Radio here on 89.3 FM. This hour on the show, the Winnipeg Humane Society is receiving a higher number of animals in need of medical care right now. We're going to find out why people are surrendering their pets and what vet bills are causing them to have financial challenges in keeping their animals. In addition, this hour on the show, we'll talk to someone, speaking of animals, whose community calls him the dog father. So we're going to find out why and what he does to rescue pets in his home community in northern Manitoba. And then an I-Team investigation. When someone is given naloxone, the medication that reverses an overdose, they go into an immediate and painful withdrawal. But as you may have heard on the news this morning, soon first responders will have a way to treat that with a medication that takes the pain away. So the I-team, Kristen Annable, will be in just before 8 o'clock to tell us more about what they've been looking at. With other headlines and stories, Josh Crabb is in for Heather Wells. Good morning again.
Good morning. The daughter of a Winnipeg woman who is terminally ill with cancer says she can't believe her mother waited last week in hospital for 20 hours. She says it took a call to the health minister's office to get her a bed. One person was taken to hospital in unstable condition after a fire at a Winnipeg high-rise apartment building over the weekend. The city says firefighters were called to a high-rise on Elgin Avenue in the Centennial neighborhood Sunday morning just after 4:30. And a highway reopening months in the making. A vital connection has been restored in the Swan River, Minnetonka area. How it's helping people in the two parkland communities devastated by flooding. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Abby is here with our forecast and also covering traffic for us today.
Clear and sunny outside, Marcy. That's the conditions settling across most of southern Manitoba this morning as we see the sunshine give way to a bit of clouds later in the day, and we'll see those comfortable highs in the mid-20s. Here in the city, we're starting the morning at the Forks, 15 degrees right now. Sunny here. Expect some clouds to roll in by the afternoon period, and we'll get breezy at some point. We'll see a highs around 24, and then we cool off to about 13 overnight, and that's what we're seeing across most of the southern regions. Temperatures between 11 and 15 at this time. Some fog patches still clearing off, and then we'll see those really, really sunny conditions before the clouds roll in later in the afternoon. Some regions down south may get a chance of showers, but we'll see highs in the range of 23 to 25. For far north, we're looking at 10s to 14, and we still see scattered showers towards the Churchill region at this time. Overall, southern Manitoba enjoys this bright and warm summer day, while northern region will be seen more like a mix of sun and clouds with passing showers. Winnipeg, 12 to 15, that's what we're seeing right now, warming to 24. And for traffic, before you head out, just keep in mind all lanes of the Louis Bridge are closed for construction until August the 17th. So look for alternate routes. If you see anything out there, just give us a call, 788-3093.
7:13 the time right now, and as I've mentioned, the Winnipeg Humane Society's vet clinic is facing an increase in demand right now. While most of the animals the Humane Society takes in are strays, they have been seeing, they say, a higher number of pet surrenders. In particularly, a higher number of animals with medical needs right now are being surrendered. Carly Peters is up early and with us via Zoom, the Director of Communications and Marketing with the Winnipeg Humane Society. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
So tell me a bit more about this increase. What have you been seeing in terms of, the number of pets being surrendered recently?
Yeah, so in July, we had a total of 500 animals come into care, and about 150 of those were owner surrenders. And the number one reason for those surrenders would be because people could not afford their medical bills. So, when we look at intakes of animals, like you mentioned, strays are the highest, but we also look at, we have a triage policy where we intake the most sick and injured, and we are finding that a lot more of critically ill animals are coming into our care.
Why is it an increase? Is it July over July, the total number of animals, or the number that are coming as pet surrenders?
July over last year, but just overall, we are seeing an increase in owner surrenders with veterinary care being the number one reason. Vet care is it's not affordable these days. You even look at some of your preventative care vaccines, those baseline things, they've increased in cost. So we're finding animals coming in with, for example, 2 weeks ago, we had 6 puppies come in with parvo, which could be a very deadly disease. It's highly contagious. When those puppies come into care, they get dedicated care. They all have to be in isolation. Our staff have to be in full PPE to look after them. But parvo is preventable by a vaccine when they're younger. Same thing with Pan-Luc for kittens. We had kittens come in with Pan-Luc. So we're finding that even the preventative care for people is just the cost is too high, and so we're seeing sort of the trickle down effect of that.
Is it mostly dogs and cats, or is it are you seeing all kinds of pet surrenders because of vet care
It's
costs?
mainly dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Once in a while, we get some birds, but those are usually strays.
Yeah, yeah. What's a common example of a vet bill that people, I mean, might have trouble paying with a cat, for example?
One of the things we see a lot of owner surrenders is blockages. So urinary blockages. Male cats get urinary blockages, which also can be, if left untreated, it can be deadly, and it's very expensive. I think on average it can cost up to $1,500 to remove the blockage because it has to be surgically removed, and there's post care. So the high volume of cats we're seeing is blockages.
How many of those cats would you see, say, in a month?
We can upwards of 30 sometimes a
In your
month.
vet
Like it's
clinic?
it's
Wow.
definitely hundreds of cats a year that come in with it. It would be, yeah.
Now, I've never owned a cat, so I don't know if $1,500 compared to, say, I'm not sure how long you've been in the business of working with animals and such, but would it have been a lot less to clear that kind of a blockage? Like, would a vet bill 5, 10 years ago have been less than 1,500? Like,
Yeah, I haven't been in the biz that long, but my assumption is yes. Anecdotally, we are definitely hearing that the cost of care has gone up, and an unexpected $1,500 bill for anyone at any time is going to be tough with all the other cost of living. Looking after a pet going up, food and things as well. It's just an added expense that a lot of people just can't afford.
listeners might recall some of the expenses across this country being looked at. There was a CBC Marketplace investigation about the rising cost of pet care. How
Mhm.
concerned are you that well-meaning pet owners might be getting priced out of keeping their animals?
I mean, it's a concern, and we're seeing it in the numbers, right? We offer the best we can in terms of some low cost vet care options. We have low cost spay and neuter. We have a low cost emergency care program. But we don't have infinite resources. We have other animals in the shelter to take care of, and it's not a sustainable model. While we try and be reactive and help where we can, there needs to be some long-term sustainable solutions for pet owners, whether that looks like subsidized vet care that allows for some of that preventative medicine to stop it at the source so that we don't see animals sicker later on that need to come into our care.
Let's talk about the impact on you, or just elaborate on that a bit. You were mentioning, I was mentioning rather the vet clinic at the Humane Society. This is the only place that has a clinic like that.
Yep.
Spots fill up quickly, as you mentioned, for that spay and neuter clinic. How are you doing, though, given the increase overall in animals with medical needs that you've described? How are you doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, our staff, they're at capacity. When we talk about being at capacity, it doesn't necessarily always mean, space in the shelter. It means the ability to care for the animals. So it looks like, looking at that triage protocol and really focusing on those, critically ill and injured animals and making sure they get in first. And that means sometimes other animals that may not have an illness, it may be for other reasons that owners are looking to surrender, we might not be able to take them.
What can the public do to help out with what you're going through right now?
Yeah. It's one of those things where we wish we had like a magic solution. So for the public, for us, we are a donation-based organization. Our clinic takes about $3 million to operate a year. So donations always help. One of the other things we do look for is fosters. I had mentioned earlier on Panloop, which is a very deadly disease for kittens, and because it did go through some of our foster kittens, that means we've decreased in some of our fosters, and it's still kitten season, so we have a lot of bottle babies coming in. So fostering is really critical for us because once those animals are stabilized in our shelter, we need a place for them to go finish their healing. And so if they have homes to do that, that's incredible, and that means we can bring in more animals to treat and take care of. So fostering is really critical for us. So anybody interested in fostering can go to our website, winnipeghumanesociety.ca, to learn more about becoming a foster.
All right, Carly. Well, thank you very much for talking about the challenges that you're facing and some of the possible solutions in the context. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's Carly Peters with us live, Director of Communications and Marketing for the Winnipeg Humane Society.
Manitoba is a conversation that never stops. From your first coffee with information radio to the midday pulse of Radio Noon and the drive home with Up to Speed. Don't let your day get in the way of your favorite shows. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Bring your community with you. Download the CBC News app and stay live with us.
7:22 a.m. We're going to run down some of the local sports stories in a couple of minutes as we continue to watch what is happening locally and across the nation for sports. But right now, let's talk about something that we've dug into the archives to find this morning. During the summer months, we often look for some of those stories that we think, let's hear that again. That was really interesting. And this next one certainly was. Surgery for anyone can be stressful and anxiety-inducing, but Dr. Renee El-Gabalawi wanted to figure out a way to help patients get over that as much as possible. Now, she's a clinical health psychologist. She's the associate professor at the University of Manitoba's Max Rady College of Medicine as well. And she's experimenting with using virtual reality to give patients a better understanding of what they can expect immediately before and after surgery. So the CBC's Jim Agapito visited Health Sciences Centre to see this for himself and to talk with Dr. El-Gabalawi, as well as Michelle Bradley Behoud, who is a breast cancer patient who tried the VR experience before her own surgery.
First, we're going to apply the headset and make sure it's comfortable. My name is Dr. Renee El-Gabalawi. I'm an associate professor at the University of Manitoba. I'm cross-appointed in the departments of clinical health psychology and anesthesiology, perioperative and pain medicine. We had taken that original prototype that you had seen and we developed it further to allow for being wheeled into the OR. My clinical practice is focused on medical trauma and adverse health events, and I saw a lot of patients coming in that were really highly anxious, and I started doing a lot of research in the area, and some of my own research has shown a really strong relationship between anxiety before surgery and complications after surgery, increased rates of rehospitalization, length of stay, quality of life, things that really matter to both patients and the system as a whole. I played around with it a lot. Thank you. The idea was, can we develop a virtual reality program that uses scientifically supported methods and treatments to be able to better support patients? For me, it was really important, though, that all the ideas didn't come from me and the literature, that it also came from patients and people with lived experience. So this will be a tour of the actual hospital environments. So we ran a number of studies where we built an initial virtual reality prototype that exposed people to the operating room environment.
I'm going to ask you to lie down now. Just put your head on the pillow and relax into the bed.
Like, this just feels very relaxed when the doctors are speaking and just explaining things.
Michelle has been an incredible part of this research journey. She was actually originally a person in our large feasibility study that trialed our prototype prior to her mastectomy.
It's time for your oxygen mask. Can I get you to put your head back on the pillow and look straight up at the ceiling?
She gave us all this feedback. She filled out questionnaires. She gave us verbal feedback throughout that whole process, before surgery, after surgery. She trialed it about 1 week before her breast cancer surgery. And then we invited her back later on to participate in focus groups. So there are groups of people who participated in that initial study to kind of talk about what they like, dislike, how we think we can grow the virtual reality and make it better. I'm gonna just take it off, Michelle, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was really powerful. It felt very real. Like, having gone through surgery and seeing the operating room and meeting the doctors and seeing the equipment, this was very helpful because it was what I experienced in real life.
I did a lot of my training in the U.S. and I had some exposure there and some, I actually was inspired through the military virtual reality in terms of deployment. That's where that was a real inspiration for me, is that they're preparing military personnel for deployment using virtual reality, right? So why can't we do the same thing with this really stressful medical experience, surgery, which is very traumatic and anxiety provoking for patients?
I'll let your medical team know that you're awake.
What we really see in our system is there is a great need for mental health support. And unfortunately, the resources are limited. That is no secret. And so we need to be thinking about innovative solutions. I think psychologists are in a really unique position because we function as clinician scientists. So we're trained as both researchers and clinicians to be able to develop this type of intervention to be able to support these patients. And I really have a lot of interest in sort of stepped care models. I see the value that, yes, you might need a psychologist for more severe issues, more complex issues, but if we can provide large support to a large number of people, then we can reserve our time and be able to really treat the people who need it the most.
The anxiety is high, like for anybody going through some medical procedures. And so if there's any way to just help yourself to like, breathe through it and realize that this is okay, we're gonna be okay. It's I don't know, I can't put it into words really, the feeling that's there. It's relief.
CBC's Jim Agapito went out to gather that story, speaking with Michelle Bradley Baluo, as well as Dr. Renee Elgabalawi. They were at the Health Sciences Centre in Winnipeg.
Feel that? That's the thrill of the Northern Super League. And it's back on CBC Gem, with 6 fierce clubs battling all season long for glory. From coast to coast, Canada's first professional women's soccer league is bringing the heat. For the fans who live for the roar of the crowd, the last-minute winner, and the moments that make sports unforgettable, this is your season. Watch the Northern Super League all season on CBC Gem.
7:28 is the time, and it's up to me to cover sports this morning, so I pulled all local stories and look aheads. Gold Eyes this weekend having games and falling in their streak. So if you're following the Winnipeg Gold Eyes historic win streak, it landed at 13. It's a franchise record, but it came to a halt on Saturday. The Lincoln Salt Dogs defeated the Winnipeg Gold Eyes 12-2. That was at Haymarket Park on Saturday night. So a lot of people were watching that streak. Super exciting. Still, as I said, a record. The Gold Eyes are next going to be against tomorrow, have a game tomorrow against the Sioux Falls Canaries. They are in town for a 3-night stand. Also, speaking of 3-night stands, the Brampton Honey Badgers are going to face our Winnipeg Sea Bears in the Canadian Elite Basketball League Championship Series. Both teams won their respective conference finals Saturday. So the Sea Bears beating top-seeded Vancouver Bandits. So that's a huge win for them in the Western Conference Final. Huge celebrations in the locker room. 107-96, the final score there. And they will kick off their new series on Wednesday. And then finally, just a short sports note about the Bombers. If you're looking ahead to their next game, the Bombers are back in Winnipeg for a homestand against Ottawa, and that game goes here at home on Friday night. That's sports for now. If you want to read more about national, international news and sports, cbc.ca/sports has you covered. Well, let's dip into your Monday morning and how you're getting around. It's going to be beautiful out there this morning, so we're not expecting any major problems in traffic. We have heard, though, about a couple of things that we want to report. George called the commuter line. He said eastbound Portage, Median, and curb lanes are closed in front of Polo Park, so traffic there is down to 2 lanes. And remember, for one more week, the continuation of the closure of Louise Bridge. You're going to use alternate routes there. 788-3093 is where you can reach us with any other traffic or commuter updates. Coming up after your news at 7:30, which is straight ahead now, we are going to be talking to a man in Wasagamak, and people there locally call him the Dog Father. We're going to find out how he helps street pups in his community, and also what he has to say about, given that he's been doing this work there for 4 years, what he has to say about going forward, what should be done about the challenges with strays in some of our communities. Right now, though, it's time for your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg at 7:30. It's mainly sunny and 15 degrees downtown, sunny and 11 in Dauphin, mainly sunny and 13 in Flin Flon. 2026 is on track to be a record-breaking year in Winnipeg for opioid overdoses. Fire paramedics and outreach workers say they're trying a new strategy in the fall, giving out a pill called buprenorphine to people after they're resuscitated from an overdose. It treats withdrawal symptoms and reduces substance cravings for a day or two. Ryan Sneath is the chief of Winnipeg's Fire Paramedic Service.
Buprenorphine curbs that a little bit so they don't feel quite as sick and don't feel quite as awful. And so the hope is that's an opportunity for us to connect them with some of the community agencies that will then get them into care, get them into treatment and support.
Fire paramedics responded last month to almost 700 opioid-related calls, the worst July the city has ever recorded. I-Team reporter Kristen Annabelle will be in with more on this story on Information Radio at 7:50. Close friends of Alea McIver are shocked at the news the longtime advocate has died. The prominent Manitoba-based supporter for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people passed away last week, according to her family. Jolene Wilson had been close friends with McIver for more than 30 years. She says they met while they were both struggling with addictions on the street and became nearly inseparable.
There was a few of us that trauma bonded. You know, we also healed that trauma as we grew because like I said, our spirits loved each other. No, it wasn't just about humanity and being a human being. It was a spiritual thing too.
Wilson says McIver was fearless and helped her feel like she had a purpose in life. McIver was 37. The daughter of a Winnipeg woman who is terminally ill with cancer says she can't believe her mother waited last week in hospital for 20 hours. Teresa Shanowski says the worst part was that her mother spent the wait in a hallway and on a gurney. Shanowski says the 70-year-old only got a room and further treatment after she called the health minister's office.
Had I not pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, I can guarantee you my mom would have still been in that hallway, and who knows, she could have passed.
Manitoba's health minister addressed wait times during an unrelated news conference on Friday. Uzoma Asaguera says while everyone wants to see the issues fixed, long wait times didn't happen overnight, and it's not something that will be solved quickly either. The U.S.-backed Board of Peace says its plan is the only way to end the fighting in Gaza. The Israeli government has rejected the deal, claiming Hamas would be able to keep its arsenal as Israeli troops pull back. But as Anna Cunningham tells us, the board says that's not how the agreement will work.
The Board of Peace envoy to Gaza, Nikolai Mladenov, says the deal it struck with Hamas is the only way to stop another October 7th attack. Speaking to Israeli TV channel 12, he defended the plan, which he says would only require Israel's withdrawal after Hamas demonstrates it is fully disarming.
The only way that we do this is if we all agree that nothing happens on trust and everything needs to be verified.
Mladenov says discussions between Israel and the Board of Peace are ongoing. On Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told cabinet ministers that he rejects a 15-point plan for Gaza. He says the proposal is unacceptable unless it ensures Hamas militants give up all weaponry. The rejection comes after a lengthy silence from Israel. Last month, US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace said it had reached an agreement with Hamas and other armed groups in Gaza. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
More national and international news coming up in World Report at 8. After a nearly 8-week closure, butchers along a northern Manitoba highway are relieved their shop is open again. Valley Meatpackers was cut off from most of its customers after Highway 10 washed out on either side of them between Minitonas and Swan River. Co-owner Karina Tripp estimates they lost about 90% of their business during the closure.
It's just obviously a huge financial impact. It's hard when you rely on people coming in, right, customers. And obviously our expenses like hydro and everything still stayed the same. So it's a difficult time for everyone. It's getting better again since the highway opened up.
She says business is almost back to normal since the road fully reopened at the end of July. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
That's Josh Crabb sitting in live in our news center this morning, filling in for Heather Wells. Well, next on CBC's Information Radio, let's get into your regional forecast and set up Monday and the rest of the week. Abby?
Yeah, lots of sunshine outside, Marcy, especially in the southern part of the province where we will see highs in the mid-20s. Well, up north, it's more going to be like low 20s through the north central region with cooler mid-teens as you travel far north. For the Red River Valley region, the Pembina, the Westman, the Parkland, the Interlake regions, we're looking at temperatures between 11 and 15 at this time. Lots of sunshine going around. We will see the regions climbing close to 25 degrees this afternoon as the cloud builds, accompanied by some northwest winds. For the Pembina Valley region and the Westman region, it's really standing out this morning. We noticed some fog patches there and a bit of showers earlier, but that should clear as you get into the morning. Then we look at the north central region, the Par, Flin Flon, Norway House, Thompson, Churchill, Lynn Lake. We're seeing temperatures close to 12 degrees at this time under sunny to partly cloudy conditions. Those regions will see highs near 21 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds. And then for Thompson, we are looking at that slim chance of showers coming your way in the afternoon. We go far north, Gillam, Tudor Lake, and Churchill. We're seeing temperatures between 11 and 14, cloudy skies. Churchill seeing light rain at this time. Highs will hover between 15 and 18 degrees with more showers throughout the day. But for Winnipeg, it's mainly sunny right now, 16 degrees. Some clouds will roll in and we get to 24 later. On the roads, expect construction delays as usual. The Lewis Bridge, as mentioned, is going to be closed fully until the 17th of August. You see anything else? Let us know. 788-3093.
I feel, Abby, like it's a hit a patio day. Like that'd be perfect today or for lunch. Or
It is.
Yeah.
Just for your lunch break, you can just go hit a patio even.
Yeah, swat the wasps away. It's mid-August. We're starting
it's
into that
wasp
season. But,
True, Marcy. You had to say that.
I know. They're everywhere, though. I noticed that this weekend. They like to eat hot dogs. It's true. 23 minutes to 8 o'clock right now. Let's turn our attention to something else. And it's one part of Manitoba. He is known by a nickname. The nickname is the Dog Father. Keith Ranville has been feeding street pups in Wasagamak and Isinanu Nation for the past 4 years. He lives there, but he also works with the Winnipeg Humane Society to provide the canine food that is needed. And he's on the line this morning to talk about the work he's been doing. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Keith. So 4 years you've been doing this work. Was there a moment or you saw something that prompted you to start this up there?
Yeah. I was, sorry.
That's okay.
I was going to the band office. I was driving to the band office, and I noticed this dog eating another dog, and I kind of realized that the dogs needed some food.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a brilliant idea. I remembered from when we had an evacuation that some organization brought up dog food here to feed the dogs because all the owners and people were gone. So I thought to myself, hey, maybe I can call somebody and get dog food sent up here. So I ended up calling a veterinarian. They advised me to call the Humane Society. So I did. And we've been doing this ever since.
So I've been up that way to Island Lake, and I know that you guys are, you're pretty remote up there. How does the food actually get to your nation?
Well, there's a couple of ways. The normal way, basically normal way, is they fly it up through Perimeter Aviation, and it is taken by custom helicopters, and they bring it across whenever I need it.
Got it. So tell me what you actually do. Like, how many dogs do you feed a day when you're out and about in community with the food?
Sometimes it depends. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 15.
Dogs.
Like last night, I went out last night. The usual stops, well, I have like 3 sections in Wasadu. And last night, and some of my stops in some of the sections, the dogs were not there, and I'm not sure why. But, yeah.
What does it feel like, and what have you noticed about the hunger in the dogs?
If I miss some days, they become pretty darn hungry, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And people might not understand. I mean, you're in a quite an isolated community. Dog behavior is just that they can compete for food. That's just all canine behavior if they're hungry. And they can kind of pack up together too if you have a number of them together. Why do you care to help out in this way? What difference has it made, do you see, in the last 4 years?
Oh, good question. What have I seen?
Yeah.
I've seen some dogs actually grow in size. Now, what I do is I feed the dogs. I take a picture of the dogs. I take all those pictures on one day, and I send them to. It's called a group, Facebook group, and it has a whole bunch of members in it. There is somebody named Valley. She's in it. Now, Valley she's basically the cornerstone of this whole operation.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent pictures and pictures to it. And my wife, Pam, she thinks that those pictures are the reason I keep getting dog food over and over again.
So there's just this awareness spread that you're doing this work to help feed the dogs in the community. How do the dogs react when you put the food down? What have you learned about what works best?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we have dogs, I call them bully dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I put a pile of dog food on the ground, that dog will not let any other dog eat it. So I have to put several piles on as some stops.
Yeah. When did you start getting called the dog father?
Oh, that was for my wife. My wife called me that. I would have to say about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Have you always been a big animal lover, or tell me what it feels like that you're able to help the animals in this way?
I care for most animals. Well, pretty well all animals. Not just dogs, but yeah.
Love that. Obviously, you're taking matters into your own hands, Keith, to help the dogs and help your community there in Wasagamak. But you know that for years you've been trying to figure out, what can be done for dog populations that may have become dangerous, especially in communities that are remote. What do you think some of the solutions might be? Because often
we got to get them spayed and neutered, for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have to, I think that's the first step we got to do. We got to start spaying and neutering some of these dogs.
How do you, are you in your feeding whatever dog you see that might look like it's in need? Why do you think some of the dogs are so hungry in your community?
Because their owners, if they have an owner, the owners, some of them are unable to buy dog food for their dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes, a lot of times actually, I get messages, calls from dog owners asking, do I have any dog food? I said, yes. And I say, just bring a bag, come over to my place, bring a bag, I'll give you a bunch of dog food.
Yeah. How much dog food are you getting every week now?
I try to get about 12 bags.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of work you're doing. I mean, in addition to what you're doing for a living, so you're spending a lot of time doing this. We appreciate hearing from you. We just did an interview with the Humane Society on a different topic, but it was about people in the city surrendering pets because they can't. One of the most common reasons was they can't afford vet bills. So cost is a big factor when you have an animal. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Well, Dog Father, thanks for your time.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you take care.
Okay. Bye.
Live on CBC, that was his nickname, the Dog Father, Keith Ranville. He lives up in a Wasagamak and Nissaninu Nation, First Nation. If you want to hear more about the story, you can go to cbc.ca/Manitoba. You can see videos also of Keith working with the dogs.
You know the voices that tell the story of our province. Now you can take them anywhere. From the essential start to your day on information radio to the conversations that define our lunch hour on Radio Noon and the pulse of the city on Up to Speed, Your local connection is always within reach. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Your favorite voices, your province, right in your pocket. Download the CBC News app today, your daily rhythm, live and local.
7:45 a.m. is the time right now on your Monday morning. It is August 10th, mainly sunny in Winnipeg, 15. Brandon's mostly cloudy, 13. Thompson, mostly sunny, and 11. Everybody heading for highs right up around 24 degrees in the southern Manitoba and Winnipeg, Brandon. But Thompson's going to be heading to a high right up around 19 today. Well, spoiler alert, we're already planning for the civic election this fall, and we're going to be out and about once again with live shows in a number of the different wards in the city. But also remember, when there is a civic election, it means that it is also different cities that are electing mayors as well. We're not just in Winnipeg. So we are going to be having live shows in Thompson and in the home of this next artist in Brandon. Infrared's going to be live there as well next month. I'm talking about Mitchell McCoons, who we love to play on the show. Here's Mitchell this morning with Better With Time.
Used to looking down and finding dimes, my dear. You settled into a peace of mind. You can only see so far with your eyes so low. Gotta hold up your head to see the sign. $20 richer in sidewalk change, in a jar beside her picture on display. I almost got $1 in my pocket sway, heavy with a heartbreak I can't afford to pay. Consider me lucky and open up my eyes. A heartache ain't the hardest thing I could feel tonight. Looking at the same sky, wishing on the same star. Something like tonight, when it all fell apart. I'm doing alright, watching the sunrise. Only you can help me ease my mind. Well, I heard it all gets better with time.
Little Mitchell McCoons for you from Brandon, and that's Better With Time on CBC. Well, next in the show, we're going to build on a story that you may have been hearing in the news this morning with Josh Crabb. Winnipeg's paramedics responded to a near record 700 calls related to opioids last month alone. Now, this comes after CBC reported in June that these calls were stretching first responders to the brink with little hope in sight. But a new medication might help this. So this fall, fire paramedics are going to have a new treatment they can give patients in the field, that can halt the painful symptoms of withdrawal after someone is revived with naloxone. The I-Team's Kristen Annabelle is here to tell us more about it. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us more about this medication. What is it?
So buprenorphine has been around for years. It's used to help people quit drugs like heroin and fentanyl because it takes away the very painful symptoms of withdrawal. And it also helps reduce cravings, and it can last for up to 36 hours. But up until recently in Winnipeg, it wasn't an option for first responders. And that's because it needs to be approved by Health Canada. Because it's a controlled substance. Now, that changed last month when that permission was granted. And it's given first responders this new tool that they can use when responding to an overdose. Here is Ryan Sneath. He's Winnipeg's new fire paramedic chief talking about it.
Oh, it's terrifying. Have you ever seen somebody who's starved? Like actually seen them and touched them? He was pure bones.
So we're just going to put that clip down because that's the wrong clip, and we're going to just give a moment to reload the correct item there and hear from Ryan Sneath. So we'll go back to that, and we'll just continue with your report, though, Kristen. How does the drug actually help first responders do their job?
So Sneath said the vast majority of people who are given naloxone refuse further treatment. And part of it is that they are now actively going through withdrawal. So it's very painful, it leaves you agitated, and just not in the right headspace to sort of be seeking treatment or thinking about anything, because the person needs their next hit. But with this new medication, it can stabilize them and allow crews to take either them to the hospital or to connect them with another organization. Right now, fire paramedics are sort of feeling like they give the naloxone and that's really all they can do. And SNEEZ said they hope that they can help change this.
Have other cities in Canada started using this treatment, Kristen? Just while we're sorting out some of our issues with audio, I want to learn more about what you've learned.
Okay, yeah. So in 2024, Ottawa and Sudbury both started using Suboxone. Now that's a different medication, but it basically works the same. And it's been used in cities all over North America. I read a study that looked at New Jersey's rollout of it, and it said that it found that if it was given to somebody in the field after they had received naloxone, it greatly increased their chances of receiving some type of treatment. We spoke to Marc-Antoine Deschamps. He's the superintendent with Ottawa Paramedic Services. And he says he talked about his experience of what happened when he gave it to a young woman who was in extreme distress after being given naloxone.
This is an important enough story that I'm actually going to make a call here on air, and I'm hoping you can join us after 8.
Yes, I apologize.
No, don't apologize at all. Kristen Annable from our team will be back after 8 o'clock with her full report as we fix some of our issues with the audio involved in that story. And right now we're going to turn our attention to something that we were going to have after 8. We're going to do a swap on you here. So on the show this morning, we have a story next about something you might have done this weekend. Maybe you took a road trip to one of Manitoba's beautiful lakes this summer. Maybe you had plans to dip your toes in the water or have lunch lakeside at a business. My next guest headed out to Winnipeg Beach on July 27th, but it turned out to be memorable for the wrong reasons. Janine Pokrant has been recently lost rather much of her mobility due to complications with her heart that caused balance issues. Pokrant is 56 years old. She lives in Winnipeg and she's worked for 5 years as a healthcare aide. I spoke with her last week after she posted about inaccessibility issues at Winnipeg Beach. And as you'll hear, this was a special trip because a new wheelchair had just given Janine her freedom back.
I just got it, so it was life-changing. It's going to make me cry because I hadn't gone to Costco in so long or shopping where I didn't have to worry about I got to get what I need and get out. I got to actually shop.
Those things that make us feel like ourselves, right?
Well, that's why we went to Winnipeg Beach, because we did our research. It's close. We went on a Monday, so it wouldn't be busy or crowded. And we went. We walked to the beach and looking for the mats to go down to the thing. There was none. So after we walked from one end to the next, we thought, okay, well, we can't go to the water. Let's go for something to eat and go look in the stores. Well, we crossed the street. The street was bumpy, asphalt missing everywhere. We get up onto the sidewalk, and none of the stores you couldn't really go in were accessible. Then we got to this one, and we went to go down the ramp, and I'm like, I can't make this ramp. It's not even connected to the sidewalk. There's no bolts. The space between the ramp and the sidewalk, I could put my fist through. And they said, well, just try. So I tried it. Of course, my wheel got stuck. So it's not a transition right to the road. Like, there's quite a space.
When you were out there, you posted this on a Facebook post describing this. You say then you kept running into the same problem again and again.
Yeah, we had to backtrack from where we got onto the sidewalk. We had to walk against the traffic, with the traffic going the opposite way, to get back onto the curb.
I wonder what it felt like for you that day.
Frustrating, because I hadn't been to the beach. It was just my birthday, and it was a way to get out and see something, be at the lake, feel the wind, see people enjoying the summer, rather than just sitting in my backyard for the summer.
You did go to, is it the municipal office in Winnipeg Beach to try to express your concerns? Is that right?
At first, I got mad after another ramp the same way. And I said, that's it. I'm going home. I rolled to the car. There was a maintenance crew. And she's like, oh, but let's try this and this. And I said, no, just, where's the municipal office? This is wrong. There's too many elderly people with walkers. There's blind people. The elderly should be able to take their walkers and go out, or their wheelchair or whatever. and she directed me. She tried to help. But when I went into the municipal office and I asked to speak to the person in charge, finally the lady came out. She goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry about that."
So you certainly didn't feel heard then, it sounds like.
Didn't hear, felt heard. She asked me 0 questions. Where was this? Nothing. Never asked a question.
You wrote about this on Facebook to share sort of how you felt about how inaccessible it was for you that day, and by extension for others who may use a wheelchair. What kind of response did you get?
Tons. So many people with the same complaint. Many people, there was a lady that lives there, she goes, "This is always like this." She goes, "You can't get anywhere." So many responses.
I think I saw 175 at last check. I'll have to check again.
There's over 800 likes.
What would you like people to understand and about the importance of making places accessible?
People are blaming the municipality or the business owners. I think it falls on the whole entire community and people in whole to make everybody's life easier, that not just the healthy people can go enjoy these things, that other people can too. It's making life accessible for all. I'm running into this in a lot of places, but that being a tourist attraction and saying that they have these water mats and you get there and there's nothing, you take a day off, you drive all the way out and all the way back. That's not cheap. All that adds up.
That was Janine Pokran talking about inaccessibility issues she encountered on Winnipeg Beach on July 27th. I spoke with her last week. Now, Winnipeg Beach itself is a provincial park. It is listed on the province's website as an accessible beach. We reached out to the province. A spokesperson wrote to us saying, in part, the province has installed mobility mats at a number of provincial beaches in recent years to improve access for people using wheelchairs and other mobility aids. But while mobility mats have been successful at many locations, Winnipeg Beach presents unique challenges. Significant wave action regularly shifts the shoreline, causes mobility mats to be pulled from their anchors, and creates a safety risk for users. And for that reason, mobility mats are not currently installed at Winnipeg Beach. The province continues to explore options to incorporate mobility mats at Winnipeg Beach, including solutions that can withstand local shoreline conditions while ensuring the safety of visitors. But then, late Friday, the spokesperson sent an update to CBC saying, quote, mobility mats are back in place at Winnipeg Beach, but their availability can fluctuate depending on lake conditions and water levels. And at times, Manitoba Park staff may be required to remove the mats when shoreline conditions do not allow for their use. CBC's also reached out to the town of Winnipeg Beach about accessibility of businesses in town. We have a lot more to say on this story, but we're going to put it on hold till after headlines. Hi, Josh Crabb.
Good morning. Close friends of Alea McIver are shocked at the news the longtime advocate has died. The prominent Manitoba-based supporter for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people passed away last week, according to her family. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated her terminally ill mother waited on a gurney in a hallway last week at Health Sciences Centre ER for about 20 hours. Manitoba's health minister addressed long wait times at an unrelated news conference this past Friday, saying they didn't happen overnight and will take time to fix. Your next local CBC News is at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much, Josh.
You're welcome.
Well, the more on the accessibility of beaches story comes from you. You've been writing to us about what beaches you found or have great accessibility in this province and where it's lacking. 788-3205 will take more calls. Also, we will have that I-Team investigation up for you if you were with us earlier this half hour. We had some challenges, but we'll have that story up for you after 8 o'clock. And it is 15 and sunny as we head to the top of the clock. World Report is next. Your commute's going fine so far. You're with Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa.
On cue. After taking a decade-long break from music, Hilary Duff is back with a new album which dives into the messy, vulnerable parts of life in her late 30s. She's here to talk about finally feeling ready to open up on this new record and reflect on her early days as a child star.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm JP Tasker. Lily and Jack Sullivan are the two kids who disappeared 15 months ago in Nova Scotia. They haven't been found. Their mother is speaking out to the media for the first time in a CBC broadcast exclusive coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The mother of Jack and Lily Sullivan is now speaking publicly. Her children disappeared more than a year ago. They were last seen near their home in Pictou County, Nova Scotia on May 2nd, 2025. Despite an extensive search, there's been little trace of the young siblings. The CBC's Angela McIver has this broadcast exclusive.
I don't feel I owe people anything.
Malaya Brooks Murray makes no apologies for staying silent since the weekend her two children, Jack Sullivan, who was 4 at the time, and Lily, who was 6, went missing from their home in Lansdowne, Nova Scotia. She says the RCMP advised her not to talk.
I just did whatever they told me to do because I didn't want to jeopardize the case in any way.
Brooks Murray says she heard Lily and Jack playing in their bedroom early on the morning of May 2nd, 2025. But when she realized the house had become silent, she called 911. An extensive search turned up little evidence. The day after her children vanished, Brooks Murray left the property and says she never returned.
The police had said that we should go and told my family privately to take me out of there.
Brooks Murray says even though she hasn't been in the spotlight, she has been working behind the scenes. Last spring, she took part in a volunteer search for Jack and Lily, led by the Ontario group Please Bring Me Home. Nick Oldreive is the executive director.
People looking from the outside in will compare it to, well, if Malaya is not behaving like these other parents did when they lost their kids, then she must be guilty of something. And that's just not what we saw.
Police have not identified suspects. In a statement, RCMP said many of the investigative steps being taken and the progress being made can't be shared publicly. Angela McIver, CBC News, Brookfield, Nova Scotia.
A 3-year-old girl is in hospital after a bear attacked her outside her home in Maple Ridge, BC. Conservation officers say the child was playing on her back deck when the animal attacked. A parent managed to chase the bear away. The girl was airlifted to BC's Children's Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police later shot the bear, but it ran into the woods. Conservation officers are still trying to track it down. The RCMP are now confirming an 80-year-old woman died trying to escape the Bald Ridge wildfire. The fire near BC's Okanagan Lake is burning across 130 square kilometers of land. Thousands of people have fled, and many are waiting to learn whether their homes are still standing. The CBC's Chris Walker brings us the latest from Kelowna, BC. And Chris, what do we know about the status of this fire as of this morning?
Well, this fire is still burning out of control. As you said, 130 square kilometers. That's about the size of the city of Vancouver. The fire behavior has lessened somewhat from its peak a couple of days ago, but still a dangerous situation for crews and officials hoping to get back in to assess the damage. And how dangerous this fire was made plain by the news of this death. I spoke to this woman's neighbors in the Meadow Valley area about what it was like that night. People being plucked out of farmers' fields by helicopter, families making split decisions about who should stay and who should go. This fire, as we know, spread hot and fast. The conditions that caused that explosive growth are still present. It is hot, it's dry, it's sometimes windy, and it's smoky, and that has made it difficult for planes to drop retardant. There are 3 helicopters doing what they can and 54 firefighters still on the ground fighting this fire.
What's the situation like for the evacuees where you are?
Well, by now, most people are settled in with friends and family or at hotels, but now they're waiting for news, of course. Is their home still standing? Are their animals safe? Is there anything to go back to? Officials are pleading for patience. The area is just too dangerous in many places for people to gain access. And some of that information is being supplied from pictures and videos on social media, but there's lots of misinformation out there too, confusion and rage farming, all of that just increasing the anxiety for these evacuees, 20,000 of them waiting to get home. In a few hours, we expect another update from the BC Wildfire Service. That will then tell local officials what they can do and what they can tell people. But this process of re-entry and rebuilding, of course, it takes not days and weeks, but years.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Marcia.
The CBC's Chris Walker in Kelowna. More than 1 million people have been forced to evacuate their homes in eastern China. Typhoon Dolphin is battering the region with heavy rain and high winds. China's financial capital, Shanghai, is among the areas evacuated. Nearly 1,000 flights had to be canceled in that city alone today. Cars are abandoned in flooded streets, and officials are warning of possible landslides through the next few days. Dolphin made landfall on Sunday. Chinese officials issued a red alert. Typhoon Dolphin is the strongest storm to hit China this year. Jury selection begins today for the man accused of orchestrating the murder of Tupac Shakur. The rapper was shot and killed nearly 3 decades ago in Las Vegas. And as we hear from reporter Steve Futterman, the prosecutor's case is built on the defendant's own words.
For 27 years, it remained a cold case. Then in 2023,
today, justice will be served in the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Law enforcement officials here in Las Vegas suddenly announced the arrest of a former influential gang member. Today, Dwayne Davis goes on trial. Prosecutors claim the killing of Shakur was a retaliation hit, just hours after Shakur had assaulted another gang member in the lobby of the MGM Grand Hotel.
Dwayne Davis began to devise a plan to obtain a firearm and retaliate against Mr. Shakur.
The breakthrough in the case came in 2019 when Davis wrote a book about his life as a gang member. In it, he said he supplied the gun used in the attack and was in the car that drove up next to Shakur. Davis's own comments now will be used against him. Today, jury selection begins. The trial is expected to last around a month. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Las Vegas.
In just a week, new punishing U.S. tariffs could go into effect on some Canadian goods. And for Canadian politicians, it's crunch time as they work to reach a resolution. The federal government is preparing to meet some U.S. demands, including ending bans on U.S. alcohol sales. And as Karen Pauls reports, Canada's manufacturers and small businesses are watching closely.
Staff at this Winnipeg golf accessory company are busy packing up orders for American customers. Andrew Hunt is the general manager of Baco Golf.
Yeah, so we got a few stocking orders from our sort of U.S. customers. And it needs to ship by August 17th, just in case those tariffs come into effect.
Up to 40% of their sales are in the U.S., so they're trying to beat the threat of 50% tariffs on August 19th.
It'd be very tough to eat that charge because we pay all the duties up front.
Sports equipment is part of the latest tariff threat by President Donald Trump on everything from wine and cement to agricultural products, things that are tariff-free under the existing Canada-US-Mexico trade deal.
It's a very critical time in this whole process.
Dennis Darby heads the Canadian manufacturers and exporters. He says the stakes are high. About 70% of what's produced in Canada is exported to the U.S. Nearly 2 million Canadians work in manufacturing.
What you're seeing is real threats to their business because the U.S. is our biggest customer. It's often our biggest supplier as well.
Please join me in congratulating the President of the United States.
The U.S. president likes to, as they say, drive for show and putt for dough.
Done those two.
Andrew Hunt points to flags he's made for Trump golf courses.
So what do you think the chances are of doing more Trump flags?
They sell to the dealer in the U.S., so yeah, we've done them.
For him, that would be a trade deal, hole in one. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And finally,
and I say, okay, a rock, but it's a strange rock. But what is this? And then I see this is like geometrical stuff. And they say, no, this is definitely not a rock.
That is Italian diver Giacomo de Mola. He is recalling the moment he discovered a treasure trove of artifacts off the coast of Sicily. The strange shapes he mentions turned out to be an ancient Roman storage jar, or thousands of them. They were likely being used to transport wine, and they are part of a shipwreck believed to date back more than 2,000 years. De Mola describes how he felt making the discovery 50 meters below the surface of the ocean.
I didn't realize in that moment how important this could be. Emotional.
Italy's culture ministry says it could be one of the most important archaeological finds in recent times. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is the Monday Morning Show on CBC. You're with Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app, or you might be watching on YouTube. Well, this half hour, we have a full report for you. Winnipeg's fire paramedic service will soon have a new option when responding to an opioid overdose. You've likely heard part of this in the news. It's a medication that halts the painful and potentially dangerous symptoms of withdrawal that happen after reviving someone with naloxone. So our I-team has been looking at this. We will hear more in this half hour. And over the weekend, the big loss of a community advocate. We're going to hear more in headlines. And then because Alea McIver was so strong in community, we're going to hear from her. We went into our archives to hear some personal details of why she got involved in various things to protect the community. Stay with us. To talk about her death and more, Josh Crabb is in with Morning Headlines.
Good morning. The daughter of a Winnipeg woman who is terminally ill with cancer says she can't believe her mother waited last week in hospital for 20 hours. She says it took a call to the health minister's office to get her a bed. As Marcy has mentioned, close friends of a prominent Manitoba-based advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit people, men and boys are shocked at the news she has died. 37-year-old Alea McIver passed away last week, according to her family. And a highway reopening months in the making. A vital connection has been restored in the Swan River, Minnetonka area. How it's helping people in the two Parkland communities devastated by flooding. Your next local CBC News is at 8:30.
All right. Thanks a lot, Josh.
You're welcome.
Abby's doing double duty. He's covering the commute and the forecast. What's up?
Yeah, a pleasant and mostly clear day settling across the province with sunshine giving way to a mix of sun and clouds later in the afternoon as we approach those beautiful highs in the 20s. Here in the Red River Valley region, we're looking at morning temperatures sitting near 16 degrees right now, sunny outside. Expect to see a transition to a mix of sun and clouds sometime in the afternoon with some breezy conditions coming from the northwest, and we warm up to 24. And that's what we will see across the Pembina Valley region, the Westman, Parkland, Interlake region. Highs will be in the range of the 23 to the 25s. While up north, we're seeing more of like a cool conditions there, a mix of sun and clouds, some showers in the Churchill region, and we'll see highs close to 16 degrees. And if you're heading out this morning, don't forget, watch out for major construction delays, including that full closure we're mentioning of the Louise Bridge, both directions until August the 17th. And other stories, just give yourself extra time. You see anything, let us know. 788-3093.
Well, as we've been mentioning across the province, but also across this country, people are remembering Alea McIver as an advocate for MMIWG Two-Spirit Plus people. She would have been 37 years old on Thursday. She passed away last week. And this weekend, I know my socials were just full of people talking about the work that she did in community. Because she was such an advocate and because she was such a friend to the media, quite honestly, never said no to an interview and educated us on all kinds of different issues. I did go into our archives this morning because I thought that part of Alea McIver's legacy, and as we've heard from friends as well on the show already, part of her legacy is community work. And so it will be important to carry that forward. So I thought, what a fitting way to talk about that work and hear about that work than through her own voice. So the first piece that you're going to hear is part of a conversation that I had with Alea McIver. This was during the development phase. It's still in development of a red dress alert system for missing and murdered Indigenous women and boys across the country. And then it moves into Marjorie Dalhouse, who's a host at CBC's Voice, as you hear more about how Alea McIver also went one step further and has started just to painfully document all the stories of people who are missing.
Well, first and foremost, we just got to look back decades, right? And really amplifying the families' voices and those who are missing and murdered. That decades ago, that families already knew an alert system was needed. We've always done this work collectively from the heart. And I can recall when we testified with the National Inquiry, we put 36 recommendations forward that were tangible recommendations to be met that day. And just to see those recommendations being met today fulfills my heart to know we're going in the right direction on the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit peoples.
She's now created a Manitoba-specific database of missing and murdered Indigenous men and boys. Creating the list, which already includes the names of more than 250 community members, was painstaking and painful. But it was also a labor of love.
Well, it was echoed through the community a few years back when I took on the initiative from family members as why isn't there a list? Why isn't men being recognized for the murder and or missing? And 2 years ago, I took on that responsibility and put it away for a while. And then recently, after losing my aunt in April, I kind of dedicated that list to her because she wasn't able to see the list when she was, here with us in the spirit world, and decided to conquer that list. One of the youngest victims that I had documented was 3 months old. And that's where it hits you and reminds you of the work that needs to continue to be done. So that's what really drives me to do the work. And knowing that within today, tomorrow, another family will be impacted and another name will be added to that list. But most importantly, having a list, tangible list for families and Manitobans, just reminding everybody how important it is to do this kind of work within our communities. And it takes only one person.
And Alea McIver was that one person for so long. That is her voice. We went into archives this morning to remember her community work. That is, as described by friends and family, her legacy in Manitoba in so many ways. Alea McIver has died. She was 37 years old. CBC News confirming she died last week. Ginichuk, an Indigenous-led organization in our city, remembers McIver as a beloved warrior matriarch. And if you want to read more, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
I'm Eric Westaver. I'm your local reporter for CBC in northern Manitoba, and you're listening to CBC Radio 1.
Well, take two. If you were with us before 8 o'clock, you might have heard we had a little bit of audio trouble, but that's all sorted out. So let's dig into this I-Team investigation. As I mentioned, Winnipeg fire paramedics responding to a near record 700 calls related to opioids deaths last month. This comes after CBC reported in June that these calls were stretching first responders to the brink with little hope in sight. So today's story is about a new medication that might help that. This fall, fire paramedics will have a new treatment that they can give patients in the field that can halt painful symptoms of withdrawal after someone has been revived with naloxone. So the I-Team's Kristen Annabelle is back in studio. All of our audio issues have been sorted out, and she's here to talk about the drug. Thanks for staying.
No problem. Good morning.
Okay, so what is this medication?
So buprenorphine is an opioid medication that's been around for years, and it's used to help people quit drugs like heroin or fentanyl because it takes away the painful symptoms of withdrawal, it reduces cravings, and it lasts for up to 36 hours. But up until recently, this wasn't an option for first responders to use because it's a controlled substance and it requires permission from Health Canada. But that changed last month, so it now gives fire paramedics this new tool to use when responding to an overdose. Here's Ryan Sneath, he's Winnipeg's new fire paramedic chief, talking about it.
And that medication is used to, I'll say, curb that crash. So when folks receive naloxone, they often go into instant withdrawals from the medication and then are seeking, they feel awful. And so the buprenorphine curbs that a little bit so they don't feel quite as sick and don't feel quite as awful. And so the hope is that's an opportunity for us to connect them with some of the community agencies that will then get them into care, get them into treatment and support.
So how does the drug itself help first responders do their job?
So Sneath said the vast majority of people who are given naloxone refuse further treatment. And part of that is that they're now actively going into withdrawal. It's extremely painful, it leaves you agitated, and you're just not in the right headspace to start talking about anything because the person needs to find their next hit. But with this medication, it stabilizes them and allows these crews to either take them to the hospital or connect them with another organization. And right now, fire paramedics just sort of have this feeling like they can't offer anything more than naloxone to people. And Sneeze says this could really help change that.
And when we were responding, and I'll say in an episodic fashion, where we're just going and responding over and over again, and you don't feel like you're offering any help to the individual because they're not going to the hospital, you're not connecting them with care, this was an avenue for us to say, we're going to give you some different treatment and try to connect you with community services.
And so have other cities in Canada started using the treatment?
So in 2024, Ottawa and Sudbury both started using Suboxone. Now, that's a different medication, but it basically works the same. It's also been used in cities all across North America. I read a study from New Jersey that looked at its rollout. And what they found is that when it was given to somebody in the field, it increased the chances of them seeking some sort of treatment. We spoke to Marc-Antoine Deschamps. He's a superintendent with Ottawa Paramedic Services, and he told us about his experience after he gave it to a young woman who was in extreme distress after she was given naloxone.
We administered the Suboxone, which is a tab that she took in her mouth and tried to let it dissolve. And then we added some other medication to treat her nausea and try to rehydrate her after what she's been through. And she went from extremely agitated to resting comfortably and being able to talk to us within about 20 minutes. So that was a huge improvement where we saw a definitive change in her condition within only a few minutes of administering that medication.
I'm going to ask what maybe is on a lot of people's minds hearing about this. Why are we only starting this now?
So it's not clear how long this has been in the works, but it was a process because first you did have to get approval by Health Canada, which can take a while. But I really think the catalyst has been what we've been seeing. You know, I was here in June telling you about how the numbers for 2026 were pushing crews to the brink. They were facing violence. Their resources were stretched. They were reviving the same people over and over again. And as you said, July wasn't much better. Like they had near record 700 calls related to opioids that month. We spoke to Mitch Bourbonnier. He's an outreach worker with OPK, and they work with the Downtown Safety Patrol Partnership in their Wayfinder program, and they help folks in that area. He said he welcomed the new plan for fire paramedics, but also said on the other side, there does need to be a focus on arresting drug dealers and better access to treatment.
We're seeing more and more toxic drugs, more and more toxic combinations, but also more people that are struggling. A team of 2 or 3 wayfinders on a particular shift, just walking around, will probably encounter between 50 and 60 people in their shift that are struggling in some way. It might not be an overdose, but they're struggling in some severe way. They'll probably do 4, 5, even 6 life-saving resuscitations in a shift. And that's just one team of 2 or 3. So that's anecdotally, that's pretty serious.
When, Kristen, will fire paramedics start using this then?
So they're still in early stages right now. They have to create a protocol of like what situation it will be used in. They need to make sure everyone's trained for it. In Ottawa, they did a phased-in approach where they were slowly adding more crews to start carrying the medication. Our fire paramedic chief said the aim is for mid-September or October. And in Ottawa, they haven't yet compiled the data to sort of see these outcomes. But when I asked the Ottawa superintendent about what he has seen, this is what he said, and this is Marc-Antoine Deschamps again.
It made a huge difference in that young woman, allowed her to receive the care that she needed and prevented maybe the next overdose. And I think that's a huge win at sometimes just one. She's somebody's daughter, she's somebody's friend, she has family. So sometimes if we just save one, if we just help one person.
Thanks for coming in with the report. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
I have never heard of this drug, so really interesting to hear about it and to learn where it is being used and obviously to think about the impact it could have here in Manitoba. Kristen Annabelle been in reporting about it this morning. She's with CBC Manitoba's I-Team. They will have more on the story, by the way, tonight on CBC News at 6. You can read about it now on our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. And I want to mention that, of course, the timing of this is kind of works with the programming we have tomorrow. Tomorrow, Manitoba's first supervised consumption site is going to open in Winnipeg. We're going to take you down a long, winding road of how advocates, health officials, and politicians arrived at this moment of change in our province. So that's coming up tomorrow. And then Thursday, live right here on Information Radio, Premier Wab Kinew will be here for the monthly interview.
You know the voices that tell the story of our province. Now you can take them anywhere. From the essential start to your day on Information Radio to the conversations that define our lunch hour on Radio Noon and the pulse of the city on Up to Speed, your local connection is always within reach. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Your favorite voices, your province, right in your pocket. Download the CBC News app today, your daily rhythm, live and local.
8:25 is the time right now. Well, if you were with us before 8 o'clock this morning, then you heard a story about a Manitoba woman who actually has a medical condition, and she's just started using her first wheelchair. And her name is Janine Pocrant. And I spoke with her last week because she says she went to Winnipeg Beach. She and her husband was pretty excited about, having her mobility, using the wheelchair restored, some more freedom, maybe getting out to the beach, getting her feet in the water. But when she got there, she found that it wasn't accessible for a number of different reasons. It led us to ask you on Facebook about accessible beaches all over the province of Manitoba. So what have you seen that has, deserves kudos? What's working for you in terms of accessible beaches? And what have you seen that needs work? And we got a whole bunch of comments here. Janine also got, when she posted about her concerns, just hundreds of people writing in. So Jay Bads wrote to CBC on the good side saying Gimli has the boardwalk, and Jay has found Winnipeg Beach has mats off the boardwalk onto the sand, although they are not always there, the province telling us due to wave action and challenges having them there consistently. Ray Gibson saying Grand Beach has a ramp and mats to get to the beach as soon as you come near the shops and concessions. Barbara Froman saying Hecla isn't accessible at all. Clear Lake has ramps and mats. The piers along Lake Winnipeg aren't that accessible, but both Winnipeg Beach and Gimli are. Now, Winnipeg Beach is not consistently accessible. In fact, the province last week had momentarily taken it off its accessibility list and then put it back on and reached back out to CBC, talking about the fact that the mats couldn't be consistently there because of challenges with the way the lake works and having those mats stay in place. Vivian Fogarty just saying accessibility shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be part of everyday planning everywhere. It's called universal design. It is also, by the way, law in this province. We are supposed to have accessibility. Legislation was passed years ago on these issues. Kelly Keith saying Lester Beach has mats, but they don't go right to the water. So they've been extended once so far. Maybe there'll be more. There's large limestone chunks, though, to sit for those who need a rest. Shandy Strong saying Lester Beach tries. And we also have people writing in about other issues. West Hawk Beach, Cheryl Kennedy Cursell says, has been redone to be more accessible. Jen Alexis saying Pinawa Beach the other day, she was there and had a mat for mobility, but no accessible path to the mat. So then a wheelchair user has to magically teleport to the mat to get beach access. So that's a gap in the accessibility, of course, and many of you are writing about that. And then finally, Alan Mankiewicz, who we might have to follow through with, he's an accessibility advocate in the province and has been for a long time, says, wrote to CBC, I find the lack of information on the park's website most frustrating. It's not hard to list more specific accessibility information on the park's website so that disabled campers can have a better idea of what they're getting into. Also, why can't they put ramps on all yurts and cabins in provincial parks? It's not like that would cause issues for non-disabled people. Only having a few accessible ones makes it harder to book for people who actually need them, as they're open for anyone to book. So lots of reaction. I haven't got through all the comments here, but if you want to weigh in, we'd love to hear your voice. 788-3205 is the listener line here at Information Radio, 788-3205. Well, we're coming up to news time at 8:30 this morning, and it is 16 degrees in Winnipeg. Today's high is going to be 24. Your morning commute's been going really well. But you might have noticed some traffic around some different places because the crowds keep gathering for Folklorama, and it sure does get busy around those pavilion sites. So the call-in today, the provincial-wide call-in that starts at 12:15 this afternoon with host Marjorie Dalhoust, who's back on Radio Noon, is how do you stay connected with your culture? How do you stay connected with your culture? So Folklorama, of course, is one of the ways that people say that they try to highlight their culture. But overall, how do you stay connected? You can weigh in this afternoon with a call-in. It starts at 12:15. Well, stay with us here on CBC's Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. I just want to thank the team in advance of the news. I found myself with a moment here. So Abby Adeyemi and Jenica Sewell, as well as Darren Marash behind the glass this morning. We also have in our news center Megan Ketcherson, who is back, Josh Crabb, who we'll hear from in just a moment, and Cameron McLean, who is at our news desk overall at our assignment desk. And thanks to folks that put the show together. So producers Nellie Gonzalez and our senior producer of audio, Leif Larson, associate producer Sophia Peralta Barone, as well as associate producer Emily Enns with pieces in the program today, and our community reporter Shannalee Vidal, as well as I-Team reporter Kristen Annable. Right now, your CBC News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg at 8:30. It's mainly sunny and 16 downtown, mostly cloudy, and 13 in Brandon, partly cloudy, and 12 in Thompson. Walking tall and loving each other. That's what friends of Alea McIver say they will do to honor her memory. The advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit people, men and boys passed away last week. Jolene Wilson and McIver were close friends for more than 30 years. She says McIver was all about caring for others who were struggling.
People would call her all hours of the day or night, or she would just see. She would just simply open her Facebook and see that somebody was struggling. And she'd go, we have to go there. We have to go to that person, and we have to love them. They need us.
Wilson says McIver was known for giving roses to people to remind them how beautiful they were. She says McIver taught the community what needs to be done to help others, and they will carry on. Winnipeg fire paramedics will have a new tool starting this fall when responding to overdoses. Health Canada just gave them special approval to provide buprenorphine. It's a pill they can give after reviving someone who's overdosed. It treats withdrawal symptoms and reduces substance cravings for a day or two. Mitch Bourbonnier is a community outreach worker.
I think it's fantastic. I think that's what people need. People need appropriate medication to substitute the toxic drugs. They suffer greatly in withdrawal. They're at risk of dying in withdrawal.
He says this medication will help, but more support is still needed for people living with addiction. One person was taken to hospital in unstable condition after a fire at a Winnipeg high-rise apartment building over the weekend. The city says firefighters were called to a high-rise on Elgin Avenue in the Centennial neighborhood Sunday morning just after 4:30. Smoke was coming out of the building when crews got there. They attacked the fire and it was declared under control about half an hour later. Paramedics assessed 2 people and one of them was taken to hospital in unstable condition. The fire is under investigation. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated. Her terminally ill mother waited on a gurney in a hallway last week at Health Sciences Centre ER for about 20 hours. Teresa Shanowski says that kind of treatment is unacceptable. Shanowski says her mother got a bed after she contacted the health minister's office.
I'm anxious, I'm feeling sick, I'm worried. Are they taking care of her? Is she okay? And obviously not. But all those things were going through my head.
Shanowski's mother was later moved to palliative care at Riverview Health Centre. Manitoba's health minister said on Friday long wait times were not a problem that arose overnight, and it will take time to get out of it. Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is returning to Washington today for a new round of negotiations expected this week. Ottawa's hoping to head off an August 19th deadline for threatened 50% tariffs on Canadian goods entering the U.S. The federal government's offering to facilitate an end to provincial bans on American alcohol sales. But opposition leader Pierre Poilievre is urging there be no more concessions. A western Manitoba community in the Parkland area devastated by flooding is celebrating now that the main highway connecting it to the nearest town has reopened. Parts of Highway 10 between Minitonas and Swan River were washed out in early June. The last section to be fixed reopened July 31st. Before nearby roads were repaired, people in the community of Minitonas had to drive nearly an hour for health care and supplies in Swan River, which is normally only about 15 kilometers away. Linda Parsons is the CAO of the municipality of Minitonas-Bozeman.
I'm very proud of where we are as a community. Everybody really stepped up and helped their neighbor. I'm scared to use the word normal, but it really feels like, we're just getting back to normal here. I think for the most part, people are in a good space. The highway was a huge win, like really needed to happen because that was kind of the last piece.
She says 2 Christian humanitarian organizations helping residents with recovery work recently left the community. Another group will arrive soon to help restore basements. And just a reminder, your daily commute may be affected this week if you use the Louise Bridge. The city closed it starting at 6 this morning until 6 next Monday morning, August 17th, for resurfacing work. The city says the west sidewalk remains open for pedestrians and cyclists throughout construction. Officials say you should allow additional travel time and plan alternate routes using the Disraeli or Provencher Bridge. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 9 o'clock.
You getting up early all week, Josh?
All week. I'll be here with you.
All right. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning on the air then. Thanks for today.
See you then.
Let's have our final look at the forecast with Abby.
Yes, Marcy, we are looking at southern regions, really enjoying lots of sunshine to start the day. Then we'll see a transition to a mix of sun and clouds. Some areas might see just a bit of a sprinkle of showers here and there, but nothing to worry about. We'll see highs close to 24, 25 degrees in most of the regions. While up north, we are looking at temperatures between 11 and 14 at this time. The regions will get close to 21. We see Churchill enjoying some showers at this time. Winnipeg 16 at this time, warming to 24. And for traffic, you just heard it in the news. Louise Bridge, both ways will definitely be a no-no for now till next Monday.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, take care. Be well, everyone. Tomorrow, we have some special coverage of the opening of Winnipeg's first safe consumption site. We went into some of our past stories, and we have been talking about this in our community for a very long time, especially in Winnipeg. So we looked back at the path to get here, and we pulled some of those key highlights from advocates, from political leaders about what happened to get us to this point of the opening tomorrow. So stay tuned. We'll have that on the show and more. In the meantime, take care, be well. Thanks to our Studio 15 crew, and thanks to you for listening, everyone, this Monday morning to Information Radio. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, right here on CBC.